At a racetrack whose history was recorded in black and white, it's a colorful, crisp afternoon, even with looming gray clouds and cold September rain. A few stray leaves are beginning to change from green to hues of red and gold, signaling the beginning of the end of the 2020 racing season. North of Chicago and Milwaukee, there's a 4-mile twisting path through forest and fields. There's Yellowstone, there's Yosemite, but for racing fans and for GRIDLIFE's Elkhart Classic, the destination is Road America, the National Park of Speed. Welcome this afternoon to GRIDLIFE Live. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Abram Schmucker for Time Attack Group A, our first stream session of the weekend. We've been on track a few times so far. It has been a wet morning, Abe, but it is finally starting to dry out there. The track's gotten fast, and now I think we're going to see some pretty decent lap times.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier this morning, we were seeing lap times in the 2-minute 54-second range-ish. And I would expect that all drivers will go considerably faster than that in these first couple of sessions.
So coming off of Pikes Peak International Raceway a few weeks ago, that was our last round. That was a tight technical racetrack with a lot of tall curbs in the infield and a lot to negotiate. Certainly not a top speed track. They call this place the National Park of Speed for a reason. Speeds for some of the unlimited cars have reached in the past over 170, 180 miles an hour on the front straight. This is not a slow track. This is not a wide track. This is a dangerous place, but you got to respect every corner around this place to be good at it.
Yeah, this track is basically all about horsepower, and we've got a GT2 RS YSOC package in the Group A here, and I'm told that by the time they hit turn 1, that car should be doing kind of in the mid-180s with the air conditioning running. What an amazing machine.
Yeah, I mean, I had like air conditioning. I was actually out on track this morning in HPDE for my first ever track experience with GRIDLIFE's beginner program. Let me tell you, if you are, getting into driving your car on a racetrack, go to a GRIDLIFE event and do the beginner sequence, because the instructors are spectacular. What they walk you through is so informative, and you learn a lot. And I've only been doing it for half a day so far. I feel like I walked out knowing a whole lot more than I did going in. So even if it's you're running a 200-mile-an-hour time attack car or running a 90-horsepower Miata, I think you can learn a lot coming to GRIDLIFE, and I got to learn a lot this morning.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate. We've got a great crew of instructors, all of them with years and years of experience and really good attitudes to try and make this a really comfortable place to learn and enjoy your first time out on track.
So we talked about conditions a little bit, and it's not going to get past the low to mid 60s today, but tomorrow should be sunnier and mid 70s I'm expecting. So the weather should clear up tomorrow afternoon, but right now today it's still gray. Rain still a possibility, but looking less likely the more that we go on as cars come across the start-finish line to pick up a green flag here for the first stream session of the weekend for Time Attack Group A here at Road America. Jackie Ding in the number 86 TA90 Supra. He's been breaking track records all over the place, and I think he's looking forward to coming back here with this car after I think he had the other one last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this track really is all about horsepower, and you can see the kind of first 3-4 cars are all Jackie, I think, is approaching 600, and we show Steve Loudon here in position 2. That's actually pro driver Tom O'Gorman guest driving that car. I would expect, I would be really surprised to not see Tom be able to do something like a 214 at a track like this in that car.
And that's really fast. Just for reference, GT3 cars will do 206, 207 around here on a good sunny day. So 214 is hauling in what is basically a car you can roll out of the dealership with.
Yeah, as far as I know, that is a showroom stock car. So it should be pretty exciting to see.
So cars on track now and heading down the back straightaway here at Road America. And let's talk a little bit about the layout of this place, because it's 4 miles long, 14 corners. This is a behemoth of a racetrack. First corner, third or fourth gear, depending on your setup. That's a right-hand corner, then downhill into 3. And then it feels like 26 miles from 3 to 5. That is a long straightaway, and that'll probably be where you max out your speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything on this track is all about horsepower.
And we're looking right now at the exit of Turn 3 into Turn 4 under the Sargento Bridge, and then down towards 5, which for the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup drivers later today will be a prime passing opportunity down there. The pavement's pretty bumpy on track entry on the right side of the racetrack, so getting into the braking zone, you got to be a little careful. Then into 5, you head up the hill into 6 under the Corvette Bridge, left, then right downhill through the Hurry Downs. Corner very similar to Turn 5 is turn number 8, then the Carousel, 180-degree sweeping right-hand bend into what is one of the fastest and scariest corners in all of motorsports, the Kink. And then through the beautiful backside of the racetrack towards Canada Corner, to the northernmost edge of the circuit, and then you do a couple more jogs to the left and right to get back to the start-finish. This track is 32 feet wide, and I was here a couple weeks ago, and I learned that the reason it's 32 feet wide is because when they paved the track all the way back in 1955, a standard road grader was 16 feet wide. They did 2 passes and said, that's enough, and they've never changed it. Here's Tom O'Gorman having a look to the right side of Jackie Ding here, going to be able to drive right by him here. This Corvette makes about 750 wheel, so it's not slow in a straight line.
I think Jackie's car is about 580 on a dyno jet, so plenty fast in its own right, but the ZR1 is insanely quick.
So the first lap for Tom O'Gorman, a 2:23.652, and Steve Loudon's ZR1. Kobe Shield, a 2:26.238. Jackie Ding, Josh Hulka making his return to grid life action here this week in 4th. Vladimir Skurda in 5th, comes across line at 2:33.908. A couple more drivers. Alexander Moss in the 150. That car should be pretty quick this weekend here as well. His first lap will bring home a 2:34.402 his first time around.
So I don't know that I would say that the track is quite perfect yet. The only driver who has already beaten his personal best is Kobe Shield, but Kobe took the opportunity, both Kobe and Jackie took the opportunity this morning to go out and drive in the wet. So I'm imagining they've kind of shaken the cobwebs loose on this track, and they're comfortable and they know where they're at, and so expect them to go very fast right away.
And so again, this is a really big place. When it comes to covering it, it's really tricky. So we're going to do our best today with the GLTC at 5:30 Central Time later today. Time attack right now, though, we're watching some action on the back straightaway here as they head under the Sargento Bridge and towards turn 5, which is one of the heaviest braking zones. And this is so much more of a point-and-shoot course. There's a lot of straightaway and a lot of really hard braking zones, and the corners are generally pretty slow. The back side of the track gets a little bit faster. I would say that this is a totally different track than where we were a few weeks ago in Colorado. Very slow. Your top speed, in the fastest cars there might have been 130. We're going to see 50 miles an hour above that off into turn 1 and 5.
Absolutely. It's not really a rhythm circuit.
No.
You're not doing a whole bunch of direction changes. It's usually the brake zones are straight ahead of you. You can see exactly where you need to go, and it's just get your braking done, make your 90-degree turn, and continue on.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful area, too, as we see some other cars heading under the bridge here. The population of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, 967. It's a little town in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Native Americans call the lake Elkhart Lake because it is shaped like an elk's heart, which makes a lot more sense when you think about it. And there is O'Gorman coming out of turn 14 now, throttling up for the front straight. We'll follow him up the hill. And you can't really see a lot. When you come up the hill, you're completely blind until you come to this crest, and then you can see the straightaway here. And even then, the track's so flat, it's hard to actually spot your braking point down in turn number 1. And across the line for Tom, a 2:23.443 that time through, so that is a pickup. Next car across the line will be Kobe Shield, and he will not improve. That was about second off of what he ran previous lap.
Yeah, I think we probably could use a little bit of sunshine to warm the track up a little bit. It doesn't quite seem like it's there compared to ideal conditions last year.
So I want to talk a little bit about track records at this place, because the track record for Road America was run by Dario Franchitti back in 2000 in a kart car, a 1:39.866, which is
so fast.
Unbelievable. We're not going to get down to there, but we got some lap times to break today, don't we?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. I don't think that we'll see a whole lot going on in the unlimited class. Last year, James Houghton ran a 2:08.107. But I would expect a number of cars to run in the 210 to 220 range. Plenty of cars, actually, even in the street mod group.
Have a yellow flag that was over in turn number 14, I believe, that was displayed, but it's been put back, so we'll continue. More about this racetrack, and it's an FIA Grade 2 circuit, opened in 1955. And the track was built after the U.S. ruled against allowing racing on public streets. They did that here in 1951, 1952. That stopped in 1953 when there was an accident in Watkins Glen that prompted the banning of street racing. So then they built the track in 1955. And this is one of the few circuits in the country that has never changed its layout. Tracks like Watkins Glen, Mid-Ohio, Sebring, they've all changed over the years in some capacity one way or another. Road America has been exactly the same.
And you know what? I really love it here. This place is just such a fun place to bring the family and just spend time.
Everyone told me, because again, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to be blue in the face saying this, they call it the National Park of Speed because it feels like a national park. When you come in here and you explore the areas, in the infield. It's just campsites, and the racetrack almost feels like an afterthought, which is kind of a cool thing.
Absolutely. And, if you're not familiar, if you explore around over by the gift shop, there's actually a disc golf course in the infield, which is great. And essentially every part of the track, every part of the circuit, almost inside and out, is walkable. So basically you can pick any corner on the racetrack and, lay out a blanket and just watch racing.
It looks like we got a couple sort of stock car looking things out there as well. Do we know where those are from? Or
I do, actually. Those are a couple of drivers that time attacked with us in years past, and they gave up on their Corvette race cars, and they decided that buying old NASCARs was actually cheaper. And one of those NASCARs, I think, was purchased essentially brand new for $12,000. And so he was like, "Man, this regular car stuff's for the birds. I'm gonna do NASCAR stuff."
Well, and this is an interesting track because it does host the NASCAR Xfinity Series here every August, or I think the schedule's been weird this year, obviously. But the NASCAR stock cars will only run, low two teens, like they're sub 1 or 220, but they're not that fast around here because they can rocket down the straightaways, but they get to the corners and they're big lumbering beasts. So I'm interested to see what these cars run here once they kind of get themselves up to speed. But so far, it looks like Tom O'Gorman, a 223.443 is the fastest that we've seen. Kobe Shield with a 226.238, and Tom's in the street mod class. Kobe Shield in street GT, then Jackie Ding third right now overall, and leading street mod rear wheel drive. I'm not sure if I said Tom was in street mod. It's track mod
yep.
that he's in. So we'll correct that real fast. Charles Miller's here in the 55 Evo. Right now 6th overall. Street all-wheel drive 233.468. I think he's coming up the hill right now towards us. There he is. I think that's the 55.
Yep, that's right.
It sure is.
We're in a really unique spot right by start finish, watching cars go by, and it's such a unique experience because very rarely are you at a front straight and so close to it where you get to hear cars go by at full throttle.
And the funny thing is, you don't get to see them for very long. They're going so fast. I mean, we saw Tom for a split second. He was gone. So you don't really get a lot of view because they're already, they're halfway down the straightaway by the time they get here. So they're doing 120, 130 plus as one of those big lumbering stock cars just rolls on by. Gosh, they sound cool, though.
We need more stock cars in
We do.
Tech.
We should. I want to see one in GLT. I guess you can't do it because it's a two-frame car.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not a thing. But I guess they could run not for points.
That would be cool.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. There's a flat torque curve modifier for you. And we'll get into GLTC later. They've already practiced and qualified this morning in the wet, but when they race later today at 5:30 p.m. Central, they should not have any weather conditions to work with. It's going to be probably dim because of how much it got dark quick last night here, and there's a lot of clouds, so it's going to get it's not going to be dark, but it's going to be not very bright either, so that visibility depending on the cloud layer might be a little bit of an issue. Todd
Cayley qualified excellent.
He did
this morning with in the wet. I think it was a 250, which is an excellent time. And faster than I think just everybody else in the field by about 0.6.
Yeah, no, he's a really good driver. We first saw him at Road Atlanta last year, and Eric Cattell in his second race, he ran at Road Atlanta 33rd to 3rd, and that was what everybody was watching. But Todd Cayley did the same thing. He went from about 35th to 8th. So he did such an impressive drive. We saw him again at COTA, got really close to winning a race there and had some mechanical problems that he's gotten sorted out. I honestly think Todd Cayley will win a race this weekend. I think also, regardless of the poor qualifying effort, because DJ Alessandrini doesn't have wet tires, DJ is going to be a force to be reckoned with at this track in the dry. I think once he gets out of the race one, because he qualified 22nd. So if he can run a fast lap and qualify well for race 2, watch DJ in the 61 Honda Civic. He'll be good.
You know, what I thought was kind of crazy to see, if you looked at the overall timing and scoring for qualifying for GLTC, you could almost see exactly who had Hoosier Wets and who didn't, just because there was a sizable gap between cars at the front and everyone else.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of our most competitive fields in GLTC that we've ever seen. There's the field right now, I think 1st to 18th. I could pick anybody out of a hat to win any race.
Yep.
So this is going to be the strongest field that we've had as Alex Moss comes on through. He will improve and jump to the top of Street Mod with a 226.839. So not too bad for him.
So they've still got a long way to go to get to the Street Mod times from last year. Eric Dewey DeWitt with a best overall time of 221.895. So about 5 seconds to go before they get to those track record territory.
Yeah, and I think the track is It's drying. It's not perfectly dry. I'm not sure that you're going to see the highest sustained speeds that we could possibly do here. Again, I was just out, half an hour, 45 minutes ago, and it was dry enough where I felt comfortable, but it's still wet enough to the point where you don't want to push it, especially if you've got something like that. You don't want to put that in the Aramco here.
I love the Porsche GT2 RS.
It's such a good-looking car.
I've been in one at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it is the most race car street car I've ever been in. Just not really refined. It's very mechanical, and it's loud, and there are bangs and whirs, and it's just a crazy thing.
So we have checkered in Time Attack Group A here already, 15 minutes in. And I think that RX-7 is back. That was a car that we saw at PPIR. And I think, is that the same one? It would be the 120. I'm trying to remember the name that was attached to that. Maybe not. Maybe there's a timing issue as well where I can't see. But again, I think that's that same RX-7. Josh Halka, 6th in overall street all-wheel drive, currently leading that category with a 229.451. Let's see who else is out there we haven't talked about. Grant Walker in 10th in the 460, 233.970 for track mod rear-wheel drive. Mark Bryla is out there. Drew Cleaver is here in the track mod all-wheel drive Tesla Model 3, and he is not in his own category this time. He's made some adjustments to be in track mod, I think, right?
Yeah, we in 2020 built a class for electric vehicles because we really want to support the growth of EV motorsport.
Sure.
But Drew talked to us, and he really wants to run with everybody else, and so we really took a look at our rule set, and we wanted to collect as much data as we possibly could because we haven't really had that many drivers that bring a competitive EV into our Time Attack series, and so we basically told him that we were going to use him as a guinea pig this weekend and kind of see where the performance of the car where it fell, because we really don't have a good idea for how much potential is in some of these new electric vehicles.
Right, and we don't have a lot of them yet, so it's hard to I understand where Drew's coming from not wanting to run by himself because there's nobody to compete against, and you want to compete, right? You bring the car all the way out here, you want to be able to stack up against somebody. So I think until we get some more EVs in the field, I think it's not a bad idea to have him fit in somewhere else. And so far, I'm not sure if he got a decent lap out there. He's showing a 248.401, so I'm not sure if that is a tire limitation or if he was just going out there running a quick lap. So we'll check in with him when he runs the next session later today. We'll have Group B coming up here shortly. We got GLTC at 5:30. They have one race today. We do the other 3 tomorrow, so make sure that you're tuned in tomorrow afternoon to catch all 3 remaining GRIDLIFE Touring Cup races. So that's what's on our schedule for today. As we wait the next session here for Time Attack. And a lot of Time Attack this afternoon. And you know what's nice about this, Abe, is it's such a big place. There's a lot of Time Attack cars. I think we have over 100 Time Attack cars.
Ish, yeah.
Ish. But it's such a big place that you can get space to spread out, and you're not really impeded by traffic like you would be at a place like PPIR.
Absolutely. I think it'd be easy to put 25 to 30 cars routinely on a track like this and still everybody have ideal conditions to set a fast lap. If you compare that to some of the shorter tracks, it can be difficult in traffic to make sure that you get multiple clean laps. Many of the drivers will likely do 1 or 2 hot laps before they kind of cool things down or bring the car back in. But for those drivers who need it, being able to do 4, 5, 6 clean laps, sometimes that's what it takes.
Absolutely. So waiting for the next session to get out on track. I don't see any reason why it would be held up here at all, so just waiting for that next group to get released. And I want to go back to this racetrack just a little bit. We talk about this place being old-fashioned a lot, and the reason is because it retains its original width in a lot of places. Also, a lot of the walls have moved over time, but they're not that far away. I mean, there's runoff room in 1, 5, and 8 and a couple other places, but by all means, this is a track that you have to respect because there's not a lot of room for error, especially on the backside of the track in the canyon.
Absolutely, and I think that's usually pretty consistent with some of the older pro tracks where it's you want to get spectators as close as you can to the action, and that means concrete walls really close to the track. And at speeds that we're seeing in a place like this really commands a lot of respect for all the drivers.
Absolutely, and on the backside of the track over there, once you get past the kink, all the run up to the north end of the course, that's why they call that Canada Corner up there. That is, you're kind of in a tunnel of trees on either side, and you don't really get a chance to appreciate it when you're driving through it at 110 miles an hour. But here's a good look at it from turn 14. That's Canada Corner off in the distance there. When you head down into that corner, at a slow speed. I got to take a little Tootle lap yesterday, and it is such a beautiful racetrack in that regard. And you don't notice it when you're driving it fast because you're a little occupied.
Yeah, absolutely.
But take a lap at at normal speed, and you get to really appreciate it.
Now, if you're the kind of person that wants to just go on a pedestrian walk, actually, you can take a footpath kind of above that area and look down into that tunnel of trees and seeing cars go through those straights there. So it's very, very cool.
Yep.
It's also really loud.
It is loud.
The sound carries really well across that concrete.
It sure does. Cars on track for Group B here. They've just started rolling onto the back straightaway, and what records are we looking at in this? I know we're not going to necessarily beat them with the conditions, but what are we looking at here for, we're probably a little bit less than 220, 230s probably.
I would expect cars running in the 230 to 240 range. Some drivers, this will be their first session because they really didn't go out in the rain. Alex Arteat has an M3 that'll be decently fast here. He may put down a good lap and bump himself up into Group A in this session.
And it looks like we got a pretty good handful of cars on track now as they head up under the Sargento Bridge on the back straightaway, and we call it a straightaway. It's not really much of one. There's a corner over there they call turn 4. Between 3 and 5, they do consider one of those bends a corner, and you kind of just drive it straight. But it's on the track map. There's a number there.
I think especially the one that catches me off guard is turn 2, because I do not see anything that resembles a corner where they call turn 2.
Yeah, that's right after the exit of turn 1, and what's 1 down to 3 is pretty straight to me. Let's talk about one of the drivers in the time attack field, and that would be the Gears and Gasoline guys in the number 66 Civic. They've been building that car for a couple months now and working on it and tracking it, and they've learned a lot this year, and I'm excited to see how it'll do at a track like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ben from Gears and Gasoline has been doing a ton of work with another time attack driver, Andy Smedgard, who has a shop up here in Wisconsin and has really developed K-swap expertise into a lot of these chassis. And so Ben has documented a lot of his EG build, or I guess no, it's an EK build with a K-swap, and really has been building this car for street class time attack.
And they document that really well on their YouTube channel, and Gears and Gasoline does a lot of GRIDLIFE focused content, so that's a great place to go to check out. So you can find them on YouTube at Gears and Gasoline, and we got cars across the line. Orange Crush Racing in the 298, first car across the line. I like that name. David McAllister, second across the line in the 151. Brian Blaine in the 62. And there's Ben Thorne as he comes across the line in the 66, and he'll head on down to turn number 1. And you know what? In terms of pace, that car, every track it's gone to so far has been miraculously close to GLTC times. And it's totally different in terms of how it makes that speed. It's a rocket ship in a straight line.
Yep, absolutely.
But it's really interesting because that gives you me a good baseline for how fast it is. That car rips for what it is.
Yeah. So Ben's car is kind of a classic street class build. It's in some ways kind of limited because street class has very restrictive aero limitations. And he's on an older chassis to begin with, but what he lacks in aerodynamic chassis development for that car, he kind of gains in just overall lightness. The car doesn't weigh much of anything, and so I think his car makes 260 or 270 wheel horsepower, and in a car that weighs less than 2,500 pounds, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting build. There's also the C8 Corvette out there on track. That's always fun to see. It's still kind of testing that platform out. Still new to the motorsports world as that car just released basically this year. So a lot of drivers playing around with it. We've seen a black one out there before. Alex Pites, we've seen take his number 16 C8. Is he here this weekend?
He's not. So I think they're based in Houston or Dallas.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Super far.
Yeah.
No, this driver is Jeremy Boyson, who has
okay.
He runs a lot of cars at the event, so he's running both GLTC and Time Attack, and this weekend he's running the new to him C8 Corvette.
Why not both, right? Get after it and go for it. So that's cool to see Boysen out there. As this session has just gotten underway, we talked about how big this place is, and it takes you 2.5, almost 3 minutes when it's wet to get around here. So the lap, you don't really get a lot of opportunities to make up for mistakes. So you go down there on especially for Time Attack cars, you're counting on 1 or maybe 2 laps. And you make a mistake, you're only going to have another opportunity for maybe 1, maybe 2 laps.
So, and I was talking to a couple of drivers that have some of the more highly modified cars, and for cars that don't have completely re-engineered fuel systems, it can be tricky because the G load and cars with saddle tanks, it might actually be complicated or just by overall lap length, where if you fill the car up at the beginning of your heat and you run a lap or a lap and a half, you might get to the point of fuel starvation because the car's not picking up fuel the way it should because of the G loads.
Right, and that's an interesting discussion. Also, if you run out of fuel, it is a long way around.
Absolutely.
So don't do that. And we actually got a little discussion about that in the beginner meeting this morning. We go, make sure your car's got fuel in it, because if you run out of fuel, it's not a fun time.
Yeah,
so.
and in that case, definitely more than you think you need, for sure.
I mean, some of the bigger cars, if when you're on it, you might be getting 5-6 miles to the gallon. That's only a lap. You're wasting a gallon a lap here, basically. So
in that case, if you're on E85, you're talking about with the amount of time you spend at full throttle here, you might be getting 2 or 3 miles per
right.
gallon.
Yeah. So not super environmentally friendly all the time, but Drew Cleaver's offsetting that with his Model 3. So cars cross the line. Brian Blaine fastest so far. Track mod 2:30.067. Clay Davidson second in the 575. Is that funny looking? The funny looking thing with the big wing on the back of it?
Might be.
I think that's what that car. I don't know exactly what it is. I'll have to get a better look at it. They go by so fast. 2:38.591 for him. Jared Garcia goes third quick in his number 117, and Nick Kors in the 79. Couple cars coming across the line now. That's Sam Meslovic in the 625, I think, is who one of those drivers was. The Orange Crush Racing car did not come back around to complete a lap, so I think he went back to pit lane. The 619's out on track. That is Taylor Bowling. 14th right now overall in the session.
So Ben Thorne running 2:44.917, followed right behind by Eric Dewey DeWitt. Decently comparable cars. Dewey's running his alternate car, which is a Subaru BRZ. And it's kind of interesting to see the competitiveness between those two drivers. They're very close.
You know, I'm really interested because we've seen these BRZs and FRSs get used across the GRIDLIFE spectrum. There's one that qualified third in today's GLTC race as Professor Andalia in his 75 FRS. That car is really interesting because it is an unopened motor, boxer that comes with the car. And a lot of people say, oh, those aren't super reliable and they're going to blow up on you. And he's done his research. He's got better coil packs in it. And that car is a rocket ship around here. And I just like seeing time attack BRZs versus GLTC FRSs and seeing who keeps certain things, because there's another FRS in GLTC that has an S2000 motor in it. They've completely changed the power plant out. So it's interesting to me to watch people take what is, I think, the 21st century Miata and start playing with it around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the exciting things about GLTC as a series is it allows drivers to build the race car that they want to have, right?
Right.
And instead of trying to pick necessarily a ringer car as the perfect chassis to begin with, instead you just pick the chassis you want and modify it the way you want.
Right. And in theory, try to play on the cars what it does well and what it doesn't do well. I think what we've seen in the past is sort of a lack of bigger, heavier cars in that category, because I'm not sure people thought that was the way to win. But we've seen like James Houghton showed up at COTA with a bullet car that looks like a V8 supercar without a wing, and he just crushed everybody. So
I wouldn't be surprised if James Houghton is watching now, and if you are, James, we miss you here, and we wish that your Bullet TSX was here, because it is fast and awesome, and it would be awesome to see you freight train some people on the front straight.
All right, so so I think we should cover some of the classes in time attack, because there's a couple of them, so it gets a little confusing if you're new to GRIDLIFE. So let's talk a little bit. Let's start from maybe the most basic modifications and work our way up. What does what's the entry-level time attack class with the least modifications?
Well, it's an interesting question. Conventionally, we would say that street class is our entry-level class. Still a very competitive field, but a kind of a tight rule set. Limited on modifications, limited on what kind of aero you can have. These cars are going to be closest to your entry-level 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder powered cars. Last year, we added a new class called Street GT, which was more conventionally NA V8 stuff, Mustangs, Camaros, things like that, with, again, a rule set that was consistent with street class. And so these cars are a little bit faster, but in some ways might even be a little bit less modified, because that one specifically, you're not allowed any kind of internal engine modifications. And so from there, you step up into a class that's quite a bit more competitive in terms of just overall number of drivers. The Street Mod group is a decently open rule set, lots of engine swap options, lots of forced induction options, things like that. cars are getting really, really quick and dialed in. At the moment, I think Alex Moss is the leader in the Street Mod Championship, and he has a turbocharged K-Swap S2000 that's decently light, really trick designs on engine management, things like that, running really fast times. I would expect to see in the Street Mod class probably times running 218 to 220 by the end of the weekend. And then Track Mod is kind of where you really pull out all the stops on a car that could be driven on a racetrack that is still running a street tire. So those cars are 60 tread wear limited, but almost anything else goes. And then finally, what we're not seeing a whole lot of is a proper unlimited class build this year because of the border restrictions. So the unlimited cars are race tires and almost anything else that you can possibly do.
This is a great shot here. We're looking down at turn number 1 here at Road America, and this is a beautiful shot because it shows you how long this front straightaway is. I mean, I don't know the exact length of it, but it is not short. And the thing is you can't see the whole thing from any one point, and the only way that you can see the whole thing is from the sky because it slopes up so severely coming out of turn 14.
Yeah, and if you're used to playing this track on a video game or even just watching racing, it is impossible to describe how big the hill is on the way up to start finish.
It's I was in that Ben Harisco's Miata earlier, and you get it third gear and it just chugs up the hill because it's.
I wouldn't be surprised if your Miata slowed down.
I think it did. I wouldn't know. I was having a blast. I was smiling either way. And big thanks to Ben Harisco for offering me that car to a person that's never been on a track in his life behind the wheel of anything. I super appreciate that, Ben. So if you're watching, thank you. I love you, buddy. And we'll talk about him a little bit later because he's running GLTC. There's a couple cars heading down the backstretch into turn 5. The white car that you see diving off into the corner, that's Ben Thorne. He did pick up last lap a 2:44.179. That will put him, looks like, third in street right now as he heads down into turn number 5.
Yeah, consistently improving. I think Ben's biggest challenge is he's less than 300 wheel horsepower, and on a track like this, I think that's a pretty distinct disadvantage.
So with notice how dark it is out there. It seems like it's just cloud cover. And I think the sunset seemed early last night, but I think it's just because we haven't seen daylight, like actual daylight, in a long time. And this is just sort of the early fall weather. It just starts to get a little bit cooler. I'm okay with the cool though. It was so hot at PPIR that I'm all right backing it down to like mid 50s or low 60s. That's okay with
hot.
It was hot. It was too hot. So I'm okay with what we have now. I'm getting into the sweater weather mood a little bit, so I'm all right with that. Also, the track food here is amazing.
I was just thinking about that.
Oh my goodness. Like, we talk about, the experience of Road America and the camping and the campfires and hanging out with your buddies, socially distanced, of course. But the track food adds to that experience. It's so good, and everybody says how good it is. And I didn't trust him or believe him until I got here and had it. I go, okay, I get where you're going with that now.
Bar none, the best track food of any event on our calendar.
Yeah, super, super, super good. So looks like we don't have anybody in shot. There is one guy right there. That looks to be, I couldn't catch the number on that car. Comes up the hill here. We'll see what he runs. It's a long way up the hill. You can see right here, this just shows the elevation a lot. It's a 3 or 4 story climb up from the bottom to the top. And across the line here, checkered waving. And lo and behold, there it is. That's the 63 car, which is Luca Barberis in the street modified all-wheel drive car.
So we've got Checker now in Group B, and we've got one more run group in this session, which probably will be a couple of fast guys that maybe are getting their first dry session of the weekend. So I'm looking forward to see how things go.
So checkered for the rest of the cars out on track. And again, if you've just joined us here on GridLife Live, make sure that you subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, like if you're following on Facebook, so that you can be tuned in the next time we go live, which will be tomorrow. We've still got a lot more to do this afternoon, so don't go anywhere yet. But tomorrow we're going to stream 3 GridLife Touring Cup races and the rest of the events for the weekend. So make sure, again, that you subscribe if you're on YouTube, like if you're on Facebook, and if you're anywhere else, go to those places and like and subscribe and do all the things, because the more of you that do that, the more we can do this next year. So excited to see what the future holds for GridLife as we head under the bridge here. And Brian Blaine, quickest in the session, right out of the gate, ran his best lap, 2:27.051. Ben Meeshan, the 36 RX-7, that is a street modified car, 2:36.02. Or excuse me, 2:34.365 was his best time. Jeremy Boyson in the 22. That's that C8. Street GT car, 235.984.
Decent times here in Group B.
Yeah, not too bad. And I'm that's interesting. I wonder, do you know if Boyson's C8 is stock? I think it's got wheels and tires on it.
I would imagine that's probably all that's been done. I think he took delivery of that car this week.
Okay. So he just got it and said, "Oh, we're going to go take it to Road America."
That's the life, man.
I wish I could do that.
I
know. But Poison's a good dude, and third overall in the session. Clay Davidson in that 575. He is currently fourth in overall street mod. It looks like he is second in this session, 236.001. Then Jared Garcia. There's some track records for you. Josh Halka in street at 231.277. Kobe Shield has a bunch of records in street GT, 227.768. That's fast around here. Street mod, Eric Dewey DeWitt, 221.895. Jeremy Swenson in his Corvette, 215.623. And James Houghton with that unlimited time of 208.107. That is flying around here.
So I'm going to speculate, but I think that if the weather holds for tomorrow, there will be a street mod car that is within 2 seconds of that track mod time.
Really?
There are a couple of really fast cars here, and if the weather is right, we're going to see some fast times.
Well, I think we're going to get some better weather tomorrow. And it's not bad now. I mean, it stopped raining. It's just sort of gloomy out there right now, and it's sort of disappointing because the trees are just starting to change color here and going to that really pretty Wisconsin afternoon. And with those trees changing, I think if you're here within the next month at Road America, you're going to get to see that in full autumn delight. But right now we're just getting a taste of it as we kind of feel the temperatures dropping, though, which is typical for the area. So we'll see that continue to fall. And it should raise back up next week. But we won't be here anymore. And our next event is going to be this fall at Gingerman Raceway, a couple weeks away from now. And then, of course, the Bayou Bash, November 7th and 8th, down at NOLA. That's going to be a fun one. So I think we'll get to experience NOLA for the first time. And
yeah, I've never actually been there. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about the track experience, though. Everyone loves driving there.
Yeah.
But I've never been, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's be the first time for me as well. And again, I mentioned Gingerman, which is our Midwest festival. It sort of got rescheduled from its original June date. So things have shifted around a little bit, but still accomplishing everything that we want to do with the exception of NCM. I don't think we got a chance to go back there after missing that, which is unfortunate because that is a cool place too.
It's such a fun place to drive.
So hopefully we'll get another chance to do that because I was looking forward to that one when that didn't happen. We did COTA way back in February. It feels like
that
2
seems
years
like
ago.
a lifetime ago.
It does. But we did COTA, just GLTC, and we had, I guess, some of the time attack cars were there running
with SLB.
With SLB. So. So I don't know if that's on the table again, but hey, that's a cool place. I'm going there next week actually, so I'll get to check out COTA as well. So again, if you just joined us here on Grid Life Live, thanks for joining us, and we'd like to thank our partners that have been with us for this round, and of course we've got some amazing partners that have joined us, and those partners are Falcon with the RT660 tire, peak performance inspired by enthusiasts. FCP Euro, if we wouldn't put it on our cars, we won't sell it to you, and every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And by Haltech, unlock the power. Gold Eagle. And feel the difference for 104 Performance. Mike's Harder is on board again, and they actually joined us through our esports initiative earlier this year with the GridLife iRacers program. And I think we had a plan to do some GridLife stuff, and we're still kind of working that out as we go here. So keep your eye out, see if we can get some iRacing in. And ST Suspension, we appreciate that. But we got a bunch of partners with us, Abe, which is always cool to have. And while we wait for our next group, we got one more group, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, Group C.
Group C. So we're just waiting on one more group to get out there, and then we'll see what the rest of the day holds for us. Again, GLTC race number 1, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. These times are Central. We're up here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, just northwest of Chicago and north of Milwaukee.
Not a long drive from Chicago.
Not a long drive.
Really an accessible place. I love being here. I don't know how many times I get to say that on air, but I love being here.
It's so cool. It's 12 hours for me driving out here, and I was just here a couple weeks ago, so I'm getting real tired of the stretch through Ohio just because I've done that like 30 times this summer. But I think it felt short to me because coming here, again, I'm local to Watkins Glen, so I'm familiar with classic racetracks that are really nice, but this place to me is like a whole other step.
You think so?
I think so, and I love Watkins Glen. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about this when you come into the town here. It's like Watkins Glen, but it's bigger and it has more of a park atmosphere because there is a park in Watkins Glen. It's a national or a state park at least, but it's in the town. It's not at the track. This feels like the park is in the track.
Yeah, it really does. And all the facilities here are very beautiful. All the garages are nice. Everything is clean. Like it's a fantastic place to be. You know, I just love being here.
Absolutely. We're going to take a very short break. We'll be right back with more coverage on Grid Life Live.
During a period of inactivity, they roost in trees or caves. Some species roost alone, while others form colonies, up to 1 million individuals.
Dude, that's sweet.
The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenis RT660.
Welcome back live to Grid Life Live here from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Road America, a 4.048-mile track that's in the Kettle Moraine region of Wisconsin, and it's gorgeous up here. Well, usually it's a little bit gray and cloudy today, Abe, but again, we're running race cars on a racetrack that has been here since the 1950s, and I don't think I could be in any better place right now on planet Earth. So I'm happy. Silver Cayman or something like that, or which I don't remember seeing one in that session, but it looked like that might have been the reason for a holdup. Now we got cars rolling on the pit lane, and we'll start rolling out there. Are we doing bracket battles this year or no bracket battles?
Not that I know of, unless
so.
we see them make an appearance at Midwest Festival as some kind of exhibition, maybe.
Gotcha. Okay, because we did bracket battles here last year, I think, right between 5 and 13. I think we did.
Yep, but it's a challenging place to present a bracket battle because so much of the positive feedback that we've been given about that run format is the ability to see the competition happening. But because this place is so expansive, it's really difficult to watch cars from more than one corner.
Right. And there is a spot over by where the exit at turn 5. You can sort of catch them, when they're coming down through 5 and over to 13 and 14. But and that's not the 13, 14 side. Not a lot's happening over there. It's really just the 5 side. So we do have actually somewhat significant rain now happening here in the paddock area, and you can see some droplets on the lens here on the backstretch as well. So now the track is getting slicker every moment, so these drivers are probably going to back it down a little bit and sort of assess, because it's only going to get worse for the next 10 or 15 minutes if this continues.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on a track this large, expect different conditions at different areas on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, this play, it's 4 miles around, but it covers like 600 acres or something insane like that. It's huge, so it can do something completely different at turn 1 versus turn 12. They're miles apart from each other, so it's like a whole different zip code from end to end around here. So that's something you have to keep in mind, and you're also going around here pretty fast too, so you'll get to weather, and you won't realize it till you're already in the puddle. So don't do that. You want to be careful, especially down towards the kink, which is we do run the kink here, and it's a fast corner. It requires a lot of respect. Even I was out there in an NA Miata, I was lifting and braking for it because I don't want to try it full throttle in that,
right.
And let alone a time attack car like this. I think our camera just slipped and took a look down for a second, but it is raining pretty heavily now, and I would imagine that people are going to take their out lap, try to figure out where it's going to start getting wet, and then they approach it at speed next time around. They're going to have to make sure that they don't find themselves in a bad situation.
Yeah, absolutely, especially coming into a spot like braking into turn 1 or turn 5. You want to make sure that you've got the car underneath you when you step on the brakes, and you're not going to hydroplane off of the track.
Right. I think for me, driving out there earlier, my biggest concern, other than the kink, would honestly be the carousel. That corner is narrow, it's flat, and it's also pretty bumpy on the inside line, and there's actually 2 different kinds of of pavement. It seems like the inside is a totally different color than the outside, and the grip level changes drastically on those two different colors of pavement. So that's a corner to me that in the full wet is got to be extremely challenging. And if you're really familiar with your car and you're tuned into the balance of it, you'll be good there. If you're not comfortable with the car and you're still learning like I was this morning, it's a little bit sketchy and you want to back it down there. There's turn 14. This is great to show some of the pavement transitions from some of the older pavement to a repaved section. And there's a lot of grip down here in 14.
So I think we've got, I think that's Ryan Matthews, could be, or it could be Ron Mullet. We'll see. As
Might be Ron Mullet, I think. I think that's who's in that car. We'll see. Is this the chat? Ron Mullet. That's sort of an inside joke, but he'll get a kick out of that later. But coming up the hill to take the green flag, got a couple cars sorting themselves out as they come across the line. First car across the line, the 32. That will be Ron Mullet. Second car across, Nick Gardner. Then Garrett, is that T? Well, how would you say that? Garrett, I don't know, 324 car. We'll roll with that. There's two consonants next to each other, and I'm struggling.
Tori Sturcey's running his, I think it's his daily driver BMW. He's been running that for the last couple of years.
Did he drive that to the track?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, boy.
He's got a Nissan Juke that I think he's building for GLTC, but he's been running Time Attack for a little while now.
We do have a black flag displayed from the starter stand here, and I think we can only see one corner station, so I'd have to assume. No, I think this is a full course black flag. So what that flag means is that all drivers will have to safely make their way back to pit lane and prepare to be released again. And that's typically done if track conditions are too bad, or if there's been, they just need to get people off track to do a cleanup of any sort or kind. So we'll see what this is for, but we just took the green, so I can't imagine that there's a lot going on out there, but maybe we've lost somebody.
Yeah, I think there was probably only 4 or 5 cars, so I guess here, maybe 8 cars that crossed start-finish. And so I can't imagine that many people had too many braking issues into turn 1. I'd be curious to see if anyone had some kind of incident on their warm-up lap.
Yeah, and again, we can only see this side. Maybe it's downpouring over by the kink and someone lost it over there by turn 8 or something. So, again, it's tricky to know what's happening over there, especially because it's just miles away. I'd like to open up Google Earth and actually calculate how far that is, because I bet you it would be pretty interesting to look at. So while we wait, the track is going to get wetter here as we go on. I thought we were done with the rain today, but it doesn't look like that seems to be the case.
You can't trust those weathermen.
No, not always. You can look outside and say, it might rain today. It's like, I could have told you that. But, got cars returning back to the pits. And I'm going to measure from where we are sitting in the media center all the way to, I guess I'll do Canada Corner. That is almost a mile. It's 3,000
as the crow flies.
3,400 feet as the crow flies, right? So it's not small. I also like to check out from the turn 14 all the way down to turn 1. How about 4,200 feet from turn 14 down to turn 1? So that's how long that front straight is, and you're cooking it by the end of that front straight.
If you make that walk in the pit, it's a pretty long way.
It's a long way. It's a long way to drive, let alone walk. So it's you got to have yourself a little scooter or something to get around. But across, we're actually not too far away from turn 5, which is sort of a trouble spot when it gets rainy, because the entry to that corner on driver's right is very bumpy. So it's really easy to upset the car down there. And also turn 1 is, have you been out there and felt turn 1 in a while?
I'll be honest, I have never driven this track at speed before.
Turn 1 is, the rumble strips here are gnarly. Turn 1 is just, the whole track is a rumble strip. It's just, you get into the corner, you get near the apex, and it just feels like they paved it out of like boulders. It's a little bit rough down there, so you have to be cautious of that. That's the only place where I really felt that. Everywhere else is smooth enough. There are bumps here and there, but turn 1 specifically is pretty wild. So track is now looks like empty here, at least on the front straight, as we wait for the return of action, but still have a black flag displayed here from the start stand.
Looks like we've got some cars going back into the pits. I'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on here.
Yeah, we don't really know a lot up here. Let's see. I'm taking a look. We have the race control guys are behind us, and they have about 20 cameras showing the entire track that are like CCTV type cameras, and I don't see anybody anywhere. Oh, maybe I do. Maybe after the bridge on the straightaway, I think there's a couple cars that look like they're stopped on driver's right past the bridge. So that could be a mechanical, Abe. So maybe they just stopped, which would be a better option than getting to a corner and having something go wrong. So I'd rather have something happen and get stopped on a straightaway.
Yep, and we've looking outside, we definitely now have a wet surface, plenty of shine on the asphalt out here in the paddock. time's definitely going to be slower if people go out and enjoy the rest of this session in Group C.
Yep. And so, again, we've got GRIDLIFE Touring Cup at 5:30 Central, which is 6:30 Eastern. So set your timer or your alarm for that if you can't be with us all afternoon. And then that's race number 1 of the weekend. And let's talk a little bit more about qualifying today, because there was some interesting developments because of the weather conditions we were in. There was a lot of shuffling from drivers that I would usually expect to be running up at the front. One of those drivers is DJ Alessandrini, who we've talked about in the past as being a threat to win here. But he doesn't have wet weather tires. So he qualified 22nd position, which is not the speed that he is. So if we race on a dry track, DJ will be carving his way through the field, or might just hang out at the back and wait to run a fast lap to get himself up front for race 2.
Yeah, it looks like officially we've got a rain delay here, which is a little bit surprising. It must be raining pretty heavy on somewhere else on the circuit. Yeah,
it definitely could be. So, and while we're waiting, we'll just cover some more qualifying results, and then maybe take a step away for a second. Pole winner for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 1 was Todd Cayley. We talked about him in the 161, the silver and blue S2000. Tom O'Gorman in his number 94. He's made some VTEC adjustments. That car should be a lot better than it was at PPIR a few weeks ago. Pervez Randelia in his number 175 FRS is 3rd for qualifying. Eric Catil in the 82 Civic SI, 4th. Emil Tab in his K-swapped Mazda Miata. He sits 5th. Aaron Lichty 6th. Then Woody Hyman, Justin Kelly, Scott Bowling, and Andy Smedgard, your top 10. Luke McGrew is back here again with another motor in the car after it had an issue at Mid-Ohio.
He's done just about as many motor swaps as he's done races this year.
Yes, and, he was sort of joking. It's like, it's just another expense. You average it out over the races it lasted. It's like $200 a race. It's just a running cost at that point. Tiffany Kelly, 12th. Rob Meticheri, 13th. Vitas Aronauskis in 14th. Is it Vitas or Vitas? Do you know that name? I haven't seen that name around.
I can't say.
And I asked a couple people. I have not found him to ask yet, so I'll check in with him. Jeremy Boysen, 15th. Then other notables farther back, DJ Alessandrini back in 22nd. Louis Chatroop, 31st in the number 126. He was super competitive at Gingerman earlier this year and at Autobahn, so I think he'll come forward. 31st is a long ways back for him.
Yeah, it'll be a battle, and I think any of the cars that decided to go a little bit heavy to add some horsepower are going to be the ones that might have the ability to pull here on cross and start finish.
We do have a green flag from the start stand now. I don't see anybody that is on track to receive a green flag, but we have cars rolling back out from false grid onto pit lane, so maybe that'll help. We'll get some people rolling here.
You certainly see in the footage here, the track is now extremely wet, and I think these are basically just fun runs now.
Yeah, you're not breaking any record. Do we have wet records, though, to break, or is that not a thing? Because we were only here once, right? So we don't have...
I don't think that there are wet records currently.
Okay. Not for Road America, at least.
Correct.
Yeah, so I guess there's not, so we're going to set them today. This will be a baseline for, hopefully we don't have this a ton, because racing in the rain with GLTC is sort of fun. I think for Time Attack it sort of kind of stinks because you came here to run a fast lap and you can't really do it.
It's kind of an interesting thing because Time Attack is best lap of the weekend. And what that usually means is if one day is rain and one day is dry, really all the competition that happens is the day on the dry. Only when is it consistently wet for like 2 days, do the stakes in competition go up.
Yeah, so I think we'll see how the weather treats us for the rest of the day. I'd actually like to pull up some weather radar and maybe be a bit more in tune with what's going on this afternoon here from Elkhart Lake. So, nope, not Elkhorn. I want Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. I actually took a look at the lake down there earlier. It's right off the side of the town. It's a really pretty little lake. I come from the Great Lakes area near Lake Ontario, so it wasn't anything like that, but it's certainly very pretty. We do have a car being towed back in the paddock space, and that looks like to be one of those stock cars that we saw rolling around earlier. So that could have been a car that we saw stalled over on the back straight by turn 5. Looking at the radar, wow. There's a lot of weather in the area. It's not necessarily consistent by any stretch, but it's there.
So probably just enough to spoil your track conditions and your hope for a dry track on the remainder of the day.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get it should just be this shower. It looks like it'll probably be done for the day. So I think for GLTC, we'll probably be damp to dry at worst and probably dry at best.
So tell me what you do in a situation like that if you're a driver in GLTC. Or do you put the reins on?
No, I think the track, for me to put wets on, the track's got to be wet. Like if we're racing right now, I'd put wet weather on. If it's going to get drier, I would race with slicks just because we have 40 cars here. The dry line is going to form very quickly because those those drivers will pull up that wet and they'll make that dry line pretty quickly. Our races are only 15 minutes long. They're 6 or 7 laps. They're not long races, but you get 40 cars out there. That line will be dry after 2 or 3 laps. So I'd say as long as it's not actively raining, I'd be running slicks and in the hopes that it dries out. I think if it's actively raining, you put wets on and don't chance it. We had a couple cars go out and practice earlier on slicks when it was actively raining, and that didn't go so great. So we actually tore up a car, unfortunately, this morning as well. So that car will have to be repaired. That was number 8 Colton Wade, who was here for his first GLTC event. He was so excited this morning going out on track, and he had an electrical problem that ended up kind of messing with the ABS and broke some things. So ended up kind of getting the barrier. And unfortunately for them, it'll be the end of the weekend, end of the season for him. But he's really excited. He has a great attitude about it. He's going to rebuild. He'll be back. And I think we'll see him with the next, whatever the next event is that he can make. So he's a great guy, and they work out of the Fields shop, and they did a spectacular job. It's a great-looking race car. It's an E46 M3. It's got a great livery on it, Big Dale Jr. number 8 on the side. It's a cool-looking car, but not so cool after conducting the wall this morning. But nothing he did wrong. Just cars break, man.
A car is never actually fixed. It's just,
we went over this last night. It's just not broken.
It's just currently not broken.
Yes. And there's the checkered for that session. Did we even get laps in? Sort of, kind of. Nope, I don't know if we did. Let's take a look. I was still looking at GLTC qualifying results. Nobody got laps in that session, unfortunately. At least not timed laps.
Well, that's bizarre.
Yeah. Tori Skursky ran a 10:49.
Fastest of the session with a 10:49.
That's the new wet track record. In street rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's like a Nürburgring lap.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe in a Honda Fit.
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes the sessions just go that way. Things don't quite work out right, and you're really stuck with a schedule. And I don't think anyone's really going fast in this session. I think this is just fun runs.
Yeah, and there's a lot to learn in the wet too. But I think there's also, for some drivers, it's not worth the risk to necessarily learn something, especially if it gets too wet to the point where you don't have the right tires for the situation. You do not want to go out there and wreck a car. It's not worth it.
You say that, but it was funny. A couple of years ago when we decided we wanted to keep track of wet times, it was at Mid-Ohio, I think, in 2018. It was just that decision that prompted most of our unlimited drivers to just put some reins on and go try.
Yep.
And, seeing cars go fast in the rain is fun.
It is fun.
Especially big aero cars, because the spray coming out from underneath is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. We'll get the rooster tails up there. We'll see. If it stays wet, you'll see that in GLTC at 5:30 later today. In the meantime, make sure that you're tuned in. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button to join us for more Grid Life Live coming to you for the end of the year. And also, if you're on Facebook, drop a like if you haven't already, and make sure that you share with your buddies. If you are even remotely interested in trying out bringing your car to a racetrack, like I had my experience this morning with the HPDE beginner program, super cool. Ed Colazzo is my instructor, and Ed's a great guy. And there's a whole bunch of instructors, and it's basically 2 students to an instructor. So you have plenty of time, and it's really easy to talk and work with those guys and say, hey, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? So if you're like, for me, I was a little bit intimidated because my first track event on Road America in wet, in someone else's car, that's a lot to take in and a lot to be responsible for.
Absolutely.
But I felt perfectly safe out there, and it's been a fantastic experience so far.
Yeah, a lot of factors to take into consideration, and it is nice on a place like this that I think the sight lines are usually very good. There's not really a whole lot of blind, there aren't as many blind braking zones or blind turns, things like that, which can wreak havoc for new drivers.
And David Otterbury comes around and ran a 12:49.064, so not quite as fast as Skursky's 10:49, but just finishing up. And going back to my experiences this morning, my only driving experience, and some people might laugh at this, but my only driving experience has been iRacing. And I felt very comfortable in that car today. We did the lead follow for the first session, and then I've had one at-speed session. And nothing felt out of place or out of the ordinary for me. It's different, yes, but I think I learned a lot from iRacing that can transfer to the real world, especially knowing the track. I knew exactly where I was going because iRacing's got a laser scan version of Road America. It's an old laser scan, but the track hasn't changed that much. So I learned a lot doing that, and I came here and felt very comfortable, very in the zone. And if you are interested in running iRacing with GRIDLIFE or on GRIDLIFE live streams, make sure that you're tuned in because there are opportunities to get yourself both on live streams and race with GRIDLIFE Touring Cup competitors and Time Attack competitors, especially in the off season. Mike's Harder came on board earlier this year to do to work with us on the Hard Times Challenge. We ran Porsche Cup cars at 4 different tracks across the world in the sim. And a lot of those same drivers that you see running up front in iRacing are the same ones you see out front in GLTC. DJ Alessandrini is one of them. Eric Cattill's another one. Tom O'Gorman is another. So join us for that. And trust me, if you're apprehensive about running a track event with GRIDLIFE, go to Mid-Ohio, go to Road America where there's the track in iRacing. Run it there. And keep in mind that it's a video game. It's different. But come to the racetrack and you'll at least know where you're going. And I think that's important.
I think the sim racing does a lot for drivers. And getting to know the track ahead of time, of course, helps a lot. And then when you get to the track, what you start to do is add the sensations and the driver feedback that you get from the car. So if you're already very comfortable with the layout and the brake zones and things like that, now all you're adding is feedback from the steering wheel and the brake pedal.
And I want to say, I've talked with a lot of drivers about that missing that feedback. I think a lot of drivers find it harder to go from driving in the real world to the sim because you're taking away a feedback source.
Correct.
Where when you're going from the sim to the real world, you're adding something. So you're getting additional stimuli that you didn't get in the sim. And I think that's honestly easier to do than to go the other way around where you're expecting to feel a certain way and you know what you should expect to get and you're not going to get it because you just have audio and visual cues.
Yep, absolutely. And our motorsports director, Adam Jabay, will say the same, actually. He's a pretty decent driver in his own Civic race car. But he's garbage at the sim, and he'll tell you that because the experience is just different.
It is different, and there's a lot that can be taken away and a lot to be cautious of that you don't do. Because I always tell people, if you want to, I was talking to some guys last night. If you want to do iRacing, you can't treat it like a video game because if you treat it like that, it will be a video game. If you treat it like a sim and you treat every car like it's your real car out there, then you can learn a lot more from it. And there's I have some recommendations for those that have iRacing at home. If you run the NC Global MX-5 Cup car, that is that is the most car-like driving experience I have found in iRacing. So maybe that'll be helpful for those at home that would like to get an idea of what rear-wheel drive sports car is out on track like this. And Amiata, that's on the backstretch right now. So is this group?
I think this is the beginner group.
It is beginner group.
I think it's beginner.
Oh, and it looks like we've got the car that I was in this morning that's Ben Harisco's number 2. And that actually was at one point a GLTC car, and it retains all the GLTC decals and stuff. That was pretty cool. I think that would probably be Taylor in that car, Ben's girlfriend. And she's been great. She's been super helpful, helped me get belted into that thing. It's got a 6-point harness and a roll cage and everything. It's a full-on race car. It's just not super fast in a straight line. But
definitely not.
But it was kind of neat to climb behind the wheel. It's also really loud, which is a good thing for me because it helps you. I think when I'm trying to figure out how to downshift properly, you can hear a lot better what you're doing right or wrong with the throttle pedal. So that was cool to hear as well. So I think what we're going to do here is we have Time Attack coming up at 4:05. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, but we'll just hang tight for 1 second while we watch some HPDE head under the Sargento Bridge. I thought this bridge was like a myth, by the way. I was like, oh, there's Sargento trucks, haha. There's a Sargento plant like a mile away from here.
Did you get the cheese curds at the? Yeah.
I haven't got them here yet, but I have gotten cheese curds in town, and they're super good.
You should get the cheese curds.
I really want to get the cheese curds.
I think as a general rule, when you're in Wisconsin, if you have the opportunity to get cheese curds, you should just go ahead and do it.
All right, we are going to step away for just a moment. We'll be right back in a few with continuation from GRIDLIFE Live. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Abe Schmucker. We'll be back in a few moments.
So we are finally back here at GRIDLIFE, and it's a good feeling to be here. We're kicking off this year. This is the spring kickoff, and it's starting here at Gingerman, which is kind of like GRIDLIFE's home track. The first competitive event with any car, let alone with the Civic. We're just gonna have a lot of fun. That's what GRIDLIFE's all about. And if the car is competitive, then awesome. But I have absolutely no basis for it could be way off pace or it could actually be competitive. I have no idea. Street class, which is kind of the entry-level class for street cars, obviously. That's the class that I built this car for. I like having my cars be streetable. Some of these other cars that are here look like they're going to be more competitive. We've got Evos, STIs, but you know, that's okay. We're here to have fun and shake the car down. This is the first real event that the car has gone to, and we'll see what happens. I am quite nervous. I'm going to be slow. I know I'm going to be slow right out the gate. This car is still obviously a very new setup, which means there's a lot of stuff that hasn't really been dialed in. When you mess with everything at once, it's never really a good idea, especially if you're trying to be competitive on track, because there's so many variables that have changed. So if the car doesn't feel right, I won't really be able to target why. So it's always a good idea to kind of do mods one at a time. That way if something feels different, you'll know exactly what it is. I unfortunately don't get that blessing, and it's also a track that I've only really been to once, you know, actually putting down hot laps. I was here on the road trip with the Tesla, but let's be honest, that was quite a different experience.
Really appreciate all you drivers coming. The biggest thing I need all you guys to do, guys, girls, etc., is to stay on the track and not explode your heaps of crap. No blown up cars, no dirt everywhere.
I've been watching some of the other people in this class, and they've been doing a lot of work to their cars in the off-season. We've got Josh Halka with a 425 wheel horsepower Subaru. Charles Miller last year did really well. We followed him in some previous episodes, so he's in this class, and an Evo. There's a bunch of other new people to this class, including myself, and I just hope I can be in like top 5. Overall goal for this event would be to break 140.2, which is the current street front-wheel drive record, which doesn't really mean a lot around here because nobody cares about drivetrain platforms. But because I'm at that disadvantage, that's my goal. So we'll see if I can break that magic 140 number. It's going to be tricky, being that it's a new track and a new car for me, but we're going to give it everything that we've got.
There's a lot of really fast cars in this group.
Yeah.
So please just, you know,
Might keep my hand out the window.
don't drive in the mirror.
Yeah, sure.
Just pay attention to what's coming up
Sure,
behind.
yeah. The car's acting a little bit like a pogo stick. The rear damping might be a little too soft, because as I go around corners, if it's any bit of bumpiness in the corner, I feel the rear kind of bouncing around like a pogo stick. So I might have to increase some of the dampening in the rear, see if that helps. But it is not confidence inspiring whatsoever. So that's not good. I'm glad that this is not a high-speed track. If it was a higher speed track, I'd be even more terrified. Right here is a sketchy spot. This is turn 6. In the brake zone, the car gets really squirrely. I'm glad that I got this session, because otherwise I would have probably wasted a hot lap session. So this is good. I get to mess with the car, figure it out, and go from there. This car is so sketchy to drive. It does not want to go in a straight line. I'm just fighting the steering wheel the whole time, and I don't know why. But I think I'm just gonna have to man up and deal with it to put down a fast lap. I did a 146 in that session. I only got one good flyer lap in, so there's definitely more in it. So that's good. You know, I won't be embarrassingly slow, but I cannot describe to you just how sketchy this thing is to drive. Woo! Dude, this car is a handful. This car is 2 handfuls. It doesn't want to go straight. It's just like, I'm constantly skating on ice through the whole track. I don't know if it's because the car is way faster than it should be, or if there's something wrong with like the alignment or something. So I came to Gingerman a year ago with the B16B and I did a 153. So I'm already 6 seconds, give or take, 6 seconds faster than the B series. There's potential. I can definitely shave more off. We'll see. The Civic feels super sketch. It still feels super sketch. And normally I'd be like, well, maybe it's just because the car is more than it's meant to have. But Jackie drove it at the last track day, and he was like, "This is the scariest thing I've ever driven." So, and it still feels like that. It's if I could describe this, it's like trying to hold like a marble on top of this. Yeah. It's just like keeps, hopping off to the side. Yeah.
Do you have other wheels?
I do.
Like narrow ones?
I have 225 squares.
Try those on the front.
So try to go 225 square all the way around?
Just to see if it helps the stability thing.
I consulted Andy Smedegard, who did the K-swap on the car and has had a hand in every major change that we've done to the Civic this year. He recommended a tire swap, just to get more data.
Take out.
But first, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a me problem. So I asked for help from the most qualified Honda driver that I could think of.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom O'Gorman. I'm a professional race car driver for Honda, 2-time Pirelli World Challenge champion, and I'm sitting in a Honda right now, first laps of the year on a racetrack. So excited, we're going to see how it does.
Yeah, thankfully Tom agreed to drive this heaping pile.
Well, hang on, twist this.
What?
Twist my arm. You gotta.
Yeah. I got him to drive this.
All right, I guess.
Yeah, he's used to TCR Hondas, but we'll give this one a shot.
Quick.
Yeah. Does it feel okay?
It feels fairly normal. I feel a little bit of that, but I'm just gonna let it go. Honestly, the car feels pretty much exactly the way I would expect it to feel.
Okay, so I just need bigger balls.
And it feels really good. Like there's a little bit of push when you overexert the front end, like suddenly. Like in general, it feels really good. It puts power down well.
So it's probably just that I'm not used to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a well-handling front-wheel drive car is a very acquired sensation, and I would qualify this as like a well-handling front-wheel drive car. I think from what I attempt to do in a good front-wheel drive car is get the nose pointed towards the exit of the corner as early as possible to allow the rear to do more of the work for me and allow the front to do the important things.
I mean, for me, I just feel like I'm fighting the wheel more. You're just smoother. I just need to be smoother. But it seems like it's just me. It's just I'm not used to the car, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, this is double the power what it had before.
It friggin' rips.
Yeah.
Like it's really fast. I would probably start throwing rear ride height at it and just try to start pushing the weight towards the nose, getting the nose working a little bit better in steady state.
Okay.
I mean, but it feels pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it.
Awesome.
During his handful of laps in my Civic, with me weighing him down, Tom was able to turn a 141, some 5 seconds faster than I had managed so far this weekend. But with his approval that the car actually drove well, I had the confidence that I needed to go faster.
Having Tom drive the car was the best thing that could have happened. Driver mod is definitely the most important thing in any car that you're trying to drive on the track, and having Tom drive the car really gave me a lot more confidence to drive the car a lot harder. Having Tom rotate the car a bunch when he was out there really helped me kind of feel where the weight of the car is, so I was able to toss it around a lot easier, and that was definitely the best thing that could have happened. When Tom drove the car, he did a 141 with me in the passenger seat, so there's definitely still more in the car. I might do some setup changes, a little bit of tweaking to see if I can get it under that sub 140. It's looking a little bit unlikely, but I'm still very happy because the car just flies out there. It's absolutely incredible. As you can see, we're obviously sponsored by Falken, and they've just come out with their newest, latest, greatest tire, the RT660. And it's been showing some very promising results in some testing that they've been doing. So this is a 225/45/15. Unfortunately, they don't make my very rare size of a 245/40/15 yet. I think they're going to make some eventually, but we're going to run a 225 square with this setup for now, which honestly might be a good thing because that's going to help the car settle down a little bit more. Because it's a very rowdy setup and I'm not very used to that yet, this might be a great way to transition and get more comfortable with the car before I go to have something with a little bit more rear slide. So this is going to give the car a little bit more understeer being a square setup, but I do think that these tires are stickier than the current tires that are on the car, so I'm going to have more rear grip and maybe the same front grip, even though I'm 20 mil skinnier. We're going to find out. We've got a nice benchmark. I did a 143 on the current setup. We'll see if we can go faster with these. So just rolling around in the paddock, the tires are making like a sticky noise. I don't know if that's from the actual sticker that was on the tires or if the tires are just that sticky, but I can hear it rolling through the paddock. So I think we have an increase in grip, and we're going to find out very shortly if that increase in grip translates to a faster lap time. Man, I can't believe it. I shaved 2 seconds off with a skinnier tire. Phenomenal. And my tire pressures weren't even right. I was 32 hot, so I brought that down 5 psi. I'll have even more grip next session, which means I'm actually close to that 140 mark. All thanks to these freaking tires. Now, I know this is like a sponsored thing. You think we're biased, but like for real, this is the hot setup, man. For a 200 tread wear tire, like it's an unbelievable amount of grip. More grip than 245 width in a 225 width, which, man, when they come out with a 245, that's blowing my mind. So you might have noticed I've lost 31 pounds, and that helps me on track. Not gonna lie, that was part of the reason I was convinced to do some weight loss, but it's not enough.
So how much weight are we taking out of this thing, buddy? You're such a goober. How much does that even weigh? 5 pounds?
Listen, every ounce matters.
3/10.
To make sure all my weight reduction wasn't for nothing, I wrangled 2 more expert drivers to help me dissect my laps and data, Andy Smedegarb and Kobe Shield. They were both able to show me where I could clean up my line, compress my braking zones, get on throttle sooner, and generally eclipse the 140 barrier. By the time my second to last session rolled around, both I and the car were ready to go fast.
I tried to push the brake zone in turn 1 a little bit too late, and I just came in a little too hot. Well, you saw what happened. It looks like I ripped off my front lip, a couple bolts there. I think I can bolt that back up. We got 1 shot left, 1 last chance, but it's gonna be hot. So everyone else is saying that the morning session is the fastest session, and my tires are like hard to hold my hand against, they're so hot. So I don't know if this last session is gonna be any better, even if I drive better, but we'll give it my best shot. This is the last session. This is the last chance I have to make anything count. My goal for this session is to just be consistent and actually put laps down, because last session I tried to shave off immediately on turn 1 and you know, box the whole session. So I'm gonna try my best to kind of slowly work my way up to it. Hopefully I can do at least, you know, 4 good laps out there, and you know, slowly chip away at each lap. 4th place is the goal, and right now that is a Nismo 350Z. He's at a 140.3. So that's my goal. I gotta shave off 1.4 seconds to get that. Hopefully he doesn't shave off any more time as well. But 1.4 seconds, I think I can do it. And if I can, then that gives us a good solid 4th place, which I would be ecstatic to take home a 4th place on the first competition day.
That was a pretty odd experience for everybody involved. Even the safety guys were like, what the heck? What happened was that my exhaust wrapped itself around my lower control arm. They had to cut it off trackside to get the car to move because this was pushed up against the wheel, or I guess it was this way, against the wheel. It stopped the rear wheel from rotating. Crazy. They cut this off the car so that the car would roll because this was actually dug into the tire. And this Falcon tire, it's essentially bulletproof. It still has tire pressure. You can see it like scraped a little bit in there. But all in all, that is a strong sidewall, man. It's stronger than 304 stainless. Wow.
So back to turn 1, that's been a really interesting point for starting.
You think that'll cause a restriction? I don't know. You can't say I didn't try to get that sub 140. I came very close, 1.7 seconds off from breaking under 140. Pretty happy with that considering that I came here with the B series and did a 153, so I shaved off 12 seconds off of that lap time. I think I finished 5th. The final results haven't come through yet, but out of 18, I'm pretty happy with that result, even if it isn't a sub 140. I tried every trick in the book, trying to remove the weight out of the car. I took off probably 30, 40 pounds off the car. Got a lot of advice from other drivers that are much better than myself, and they gave me some tips and pointers on how to drive faster on this track. The biggest difference was probably the change to the Falcon tires. I shaved 2 seconds off right there. Fortunately, in those last couple sessions, I was trying too hard, and the car just started devolving underneath me. So that's more my fault than the car's, and I will definitely get the car fixed up. And this car is only going to get faster.
I'm Matt Williams. I drive a 2007 Honda Fit with GRIDLIFE, specifically in the Sunday Cup class. Spec-wise, the rules are pretty much contained to like intake, exhaust, suspension. And when you only have 3 things to work on, it's actually pretty fun to get carried away on those 3 things. We're all on 200 treadwear tires. The suspension is open. Most of us are running some variant of BCs, whether they've custom valving or direct off the shelf. Some people are out there with just like sport springs, which is also fun because you can just toss it over all the grass and curbs. It used to have a spec tire, but this year it's been opened up to all 200 treadwears, and so we've been experimenting with all of those. Right now we're on the Falcon, the new Falcon RT660s, and this weekend we're kind of blown away with them. I live real close to the tail of the Dragon, so I was kind of used to driving twisty roads, and I wanted to do more. Found this track community, and while I had done some other instructional type stuff, HPEs, immediately upon attending a GRIDLIFE, I knew like this was my home. So many people are family. It's just the good times that I had at my very first event locked it in. And since then I've dragged every friend I can. So now when I make the trip, it's more of a caravan and there's people to travel with in numbers. Specifically what brought me to Mid-Ohio, I love this track. It's one of the prettiest tracks on the schedule. It's also a pro course. It has awesome elevation change, and it was the first 3 day. So like, it's just awesome to finally have a Go Hard Thursday back again. So we can have a nice full week and run laps with our friends. We've had an awesome dry day, rain, and anybody that's ran Mid-Ohio in the rain knows like, it has some really wacky rain lines that make it super fun. And people tend to be really well behaved. So that keeps it going. Especially like with all the COVID stuff going on. Some of the social restrictions of the people I don't get to see, it's like these are my family. Losing one event a year hurts. Because like I want to get to the track and I have to see these people.
Nobody has more fun than the Fits.
During the period of inactivity, they roost in trees. Some species roost alone, while others form colonies up to 1 million individuals.
Dude, that's sweet. Dude, that's sweet. Dude, that's sweet.
The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast's choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenis RT660.
Welcome back live to a rainy afternoon from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin's Road America, the National Park of Speed. You're watching Grid Life Live. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Abe Schmucker for what is soon to be another Time Attack session out on track. Time Attack Group A coming up here in just a few minutes, followed by Groups B and C before we'll roll into some Grid Life Touring Cup action towards the end of the day, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. Abe, welcome back. The on-track action has slowed a little bit because the rain has returned, but it's sort of backed off, and we're kind of in this kind of like misty, light rain, kind of back and forth. The conditions are wildly changing every moment. I'm not really sure where we're going to end up with how many cars we get on track, but we'll find out.
You know, what you see on screen is about exactly what it's like outside. It's just kind of dreary. Most of these drivers are going out really just to gain some more experience driving in wet track conditions. I don't think anybody's going to go out and really push all that hard.
And you're taking a look at right between turns 3 and 5 right now. That's under the Sargento Bridge, heading down towards turn number 5. And you can see the interesting thing about, or just even this shot, how much the pavement transitions from dry to wet just right there. And drivers will try to spot that from a ways away, but there is still some standing water in places like Canada Corner on the inside. The other thing that really captures water here is those ripple curbs you can see, the red and yellow. In other places on the track, they're actually sort of sunken into the ground, and they will collect water in there. So you're going to want to stay off curbs and try to keep yourself on the black stuff as much as possible. But you can see it's not, there's still a little bit of water on the circuit, but it's not super wet down. It's just enough that it's going to be a lot of reduced grip and not incredible lap times, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. Just enough to make drivers a little bit more timid.
All right, so when we got checkered flag for our HBD sessions here that are finishing up, then we'll head straight into Time Attack. While we're waiting, since we're not really expecting there to be a whole horde of cars on track, if you're in YouTube or Facebook chat, if you got any questions or any talking points you want us to kind of hit on and discuss, feel free to drop those in, and we'll try to get around to you as we're sort of expecting, you know, not everybody to come out and show up for this next session. I think we might be surprised by it, but for now, if you have any questions for us, let us know. And pop those in either YouTube or Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button first. And if you're watching on Facebook, hit that like button. Make sure that you catch us again when we go live tomorrow morning after we finish up at around 6 o'clock here tonight. So we were talking about stock car racing. We actually do have some stock cars, ex-stock cars in Time Attack. And we discussed a little bit about those cars and how NASCAR has run here, and they still do run here, and they're really big, heavy 3,300, 3,400 pound stock cars that are not necessarily built for road racing, but they can do it. You set them up symmetrically, Abe, and they're not terrible cars. They're a little heavier, and they kind of lumber around a little bit.
You know what? They sound great when they rip past start finish, and they are inexpensive. So I think each one of those stock cars running in Time Attack this event was purchased between like $10,000 and $15,000. And I know one of those cars was basically like undriven. It was just purchased as a chassis that was excess and had the GM Performance motor already in it, and buy it for $12,000 and just run it.
I mean, that sounds like fun to me. I mean, we were just talking in the previous part. We were talking about Honda Fits and really, I guess the Sunday Cup category in Time Attack. I'm not sure if we have anybody actively running in that this week, but the Honda Fit is a great entry-level car. But that's a heck of a way to enter is with a stock car with a big V8 motor and rear-wheel drive, and you know that's a whole different experience. But and we've got a couple more cars left to hit pit lane here, and this is one of the interesting things about getting cars off track. This is a 4-mile place, so people get the checkers in a couple different places, and depending on where you get the checkered, you actually exit the track in a different location. You can either exit into pit lane right here on the right-hand side of your screen, or over in turn 5, you can go straight on into the runoff area, and there's actually an escape road out there that people are using. So that's sort of where we're seeing some people exit the racetrack, but it kind of speeds the process up if you have a couple places to bail.
Yeah, cool-down laps here. If you were to take a full cool-down lap, could take up to 5 minutes, and so usually they cut it to about a half lap, which is still about 2 miles of cool down pace.
So and speaking of tomorrow, here is our schedule for tomorrow, and we're going to be live at 8:20 Central for Time Attack. Then a whole busy day of GridLife Touring Cup, Race 2, 3, and 4, 9:40, 11:30, and 3:10 Central tomorrow, and interspliced with Time Attack all throughout the day. So going to be kind of back and forth a lot tomorrow, Abe, but we get to see a lot of racing. Today we just have one GLTC race. Tomorrow we have 3, and we're expecting much nicer weather tomorrow, so we're going to see speeds a lot faster for the Time Attack cars as well.
You and I are going to be busy tomorrow.
We are certainly going to be busy. We want to thank our partners for jumping on board with us this season. Falcon Tire is one of our wonderful partners here, and Falcon's RT660 peak performance inspired by enthusiasts. FCP Euro, Haltech, Unlock the Power. We've also got SC Suspensions back on board with us, and Haltech, as we mentioned, and Staybill. Staybill's with us this season. Of course, Staybill's America's #1 fuel stabilizer, and Mike's Harder. Dude, that's sweet. So thanks to our partners for coming on board, sponsoring Grid Life Live as we wait for time attack cars to roll out to the grid here. And I don't see any at the moment, but I'm sure we'll have some jump out off of false grid and into the pit lane here shortly. And so going back to the GLTC thing, again, we've got one race today. What we're not doing this weekend that's notable is we are not doing a top 10 shootout here this weekend. So in the past at Mid-Ohio and at Pikes Peak, we ran a top 10 shootout. So the drivers that finished in the top 10 in the first race were able to basically go out and run their own individual qualifying lap one time. And that qualifying lap would set the top 10 grid. We did it in reverse order. So 10th in race 1 would qualify first, then 9th and 8th, and so forth. And they'd all get the screen time just to themselves for that one lap. We're not doing that this week. We're just doing fastest lap time will get you your qualifying order for race number 2. So while we wait for cars on track, there are some records, and I don't think we're going to see any of them fall today, given the conditions out there. But just numbers to chase for drivers that are here and are curious about that. So Josh Halka, Kobe Shield, Dewey DeWitt, Swenson, and Houghton. And I don't think Swenson's here this weekend, is he?
Nope. I think the only major track mod competitor that we have is is Tom O'Gorman in Steve Loudon's car in the ZR1.
And we'll talk about Tom a little bit, and obviously those that are familiar with Tom know all about his accolades and what he's done in motorsports. But people toss Tom Keys all the time because he's a really good race car driver. He ran back in World Challenge a couple of years ago, won a couple championships in TCA, then went off to IMSA for a couple of years, a year and a half, and he ended up winning 4 different races over his career there. At Road Atlanta, VIR, and I'm trying to remember the other ones where they were. But he won 4 different races. Oh, Daytona and Sebring.
Yep.
And Sebring. So he's been around. He's driven TCR cars, Hondas all the way. And he is no longer in that ride due to some other circumstances, but he has been driving other people's time attack cars because people trust him, and he's so fast in basically everything he climbs into.
No, it's an excellent way for drivers to get a clear view of how much performance potential their car has, right? So sometimes it's difficult to know if your car can go faster if you would make some driving improvements. And so an easy way to figure that out is just to give the keys to a fast guy and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have a baseline like that, and I felt bad because I rode with him a couple times back at Autobahn and at Gingerman earlier this year, and I felt bad because I was sort of ruining the baseline laps as the ballast in the passenger seat. But Tom's a great dude, and he's been helping me out a lot. He's done a lot of work to his new to him S2000 that he got for running in Grid Life Touring Cup, made some adjustments. He has a Haltech ECU in there now, and he was making some tweaks to get some more VTEC. And,
I think that's all part of the Project Podium, he's calling
Project Podium. And he is now teammates with Eric Catil and DJ Alessandrini. They call themselves Speedbox now.
Okay.
So that's their little team with their Hondas and 2 Civics and an S2000. So he's got that Haltech ECU tuned up, and he's got a lot more speed in that car. Qualified second for the race later today, which is really impressive because his car wasn't slow, but it wasn't fast necessarily the previous couple rounds.
And I think what we saw last year was Aaron Lichty kind of ran away on this track relative to everyone else. And
yes, he won. He swept. This is the only time that a GLTC driver has ever swept a weekend was here last year as Aaron Lichty.
And so he was many positions back after qualifying, and so I'm kind of eager to see if he can make his way through the field at the start of race 1.
I think he's qualified 6th, which doesn't sound that far back in a 40-car field, but that's far back for Aaron Lichty. Normally, I think at Mid-Ohio, it was one of the first times that he'd ever qualified outside of the top 3 at Mid-Ohio. So, and that was also wet weather qualifying. So I'm not sure that the wet weather is the best thing for Aaron Lichty nor DJ Alessandrini because DJ doesn't have wet tires. But the top 8 or 9 certainly did, and they were running some pretty good lap times. Todd Cayley's so impressive. We talked about him briefly earlier. He'll be really solid today. So will Eric Catil. He won 3 of the 4 races at Mid-Ohio, all in the wet. So Eric Catil will be tuned in as well.
And I ran into Todd Cayley in the paddock just briefly a little bit earlier ago, and he said, Yeah, he's pretty good at putting down one lap. He really should just give up the wheel-to-wheel game and start doing time attack.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of drivers go vice versa. We've seen Houghton jump from time attack to GLTC. I've talked to a couple other drivers that have made that same move, and I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's drivers that really enjoy the chase of time attack, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think there's a lot of drivers that kind of wanted something different. I think Houghton was a good example of that, as they had conquered time attack. So they wanted to move on to something else and have a run at GLTC, and unfortunately got one round at COTA, and that was all that we had for him because he got stuck in Canada.
Man, I love that TSX, though.
It is such
just a really clever build, looking into the rules and how to really get the most horsepower you could possibly get out of a car.
It looks like if you took a V8 supercar and took the rear wing off, that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
And that is awesome. And I wish we had more cars like that.
So we've got my favorite car, probably my favorite car in the United States, coming up here past start-finish. This is the Audi TTRS driven by Micaiah Hackbarth. That car, he and Brandon Ranvek won one lap of America last year in that car. And it's coming off a brand new rebuild where he's got horsepower out of that turbo 5-cylinder basically on a dial between 480 wheel to 730 wheel horsepower. And he's running in street mod trim, so very limited aero, kind of 250 wide, narrow tires. I think he'll be fast as soon as it dries out tomorrow.
It looked fast just going by the media center here. So
it rips, and it sounds good.
It rips. And that's we discussed this earlier about how brief you see cars here for a second. I don't envy the timing and scoring people that have to read those numbers off the sides of the cars when they go by, because they go by pretty darn fast.
Yeah, I don't have the eyes for it. Jeremy and Allison and my wife Ashley do timing and scoring, and I cannot read the numbers like they can.
Yeah, and in places like Gingerman and Autobahn, your cars might be doing 100, 115, 120. Here, they might be doing $140 by the time they get to the wall, and it's that we can see. So it's not easy to do, but it's certainly a fast straightaway here, even up the hill for some of the slower cars. But the interesting thing is that I always felt like you could go faster down the front straight here than you could on the stretch from.
Absolutely. And Micaiah's car in this case is kind of simple with respect to the aero that's allowed in street mod class. So he has kind of an off-the-shelf wing and splitter combination. Really, really basic setup. Not nearly as sophisticated as some of the other time attack cars in street mod. And, he's a freight train going down the straights.
Well, let's talk about aero a little bit. Road America, I mentioned earlier, sort of like a point-and-shoot racetrack in comparison to some higher downforce facilities we've been at. But there are a few places here where you can use that downforce. Namely, I would say the carousel you could probably use a little bit, and the kink is the big spot.
I would say that those are probably the only two places that you'd even want it, because if you've got too much aero here, you're going to limit your top speed. And on tracks like this that have just so much straightaway available, you want to be as low drag and as slippery as possible.
Yeah, and I think this is there was some discussion for the GLTC paddock last night about, do I remove my wing? And some drivers have said, well, they're going to just kind of neutral it out, so it's not really making any downforce or any or
yeah, but
reducing
you
drag.
know what? If you do that, then you still take the 3% penalty for adding the wing.
Right.
So why not just take it off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's some. I know Luke McGrew had just tested without the wing at Mid-Ohio, and he was running with a different organization and was running okay. Then he took the wing off and won. So I think there's still a discussion, and this is certainly different in time attack, but there's a discussion in GLTC of if everyone has aero, is it better to not have aero to have that advantage? Because you're the only one not doing it. So if everybody has aero, it's not an advantage for anybody. So that's a discussion that I think is becoming more popular.
It's a fun game theory problem.
It is, because Luke started with that car without a wing on it.
You're right.
And then he put it on it at Gingerman, or I think after Gingerman, and it was like, yeah, I like this is better. And then now we're seeing him kind of want to go back the other way. So it's been an interesting discussion, because you're allowed aero in GLTC, but I think everyone has opted for it, at least up at the front, and James Houghton would be that lone example of a guy that went as little aero as possible.
Well, and I don't know if I'd go that far. He made his aero advantages in ways that did not necessarily
visible
qualify.
Okay, so he's right to the limit of the rules without taking the penalties for it.
Correct.
Yes. So maybe not
well,
as.
Well, let's not call it penalties necessarily. Okay. Let's call them modifiers.
Modifiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not really a penalty per se, but it's an interesting discussion though. I think everyone, if everybody does the exact same thing, then nobody's going to beat each other. It's all going to be running in line.
Good grief. So, that 5-cylinder just stripped past again. That car's so fast.
And that time, I don't know if
257, 351.
They did pick up. That was about to pick up of about a second. Mark Bryla with 307, 335. Brian Blaine just came across the line. No improvement there. I did see Drew Cleaver come across the scoring loop, but he has not laid down a time yet. I want to see what this car does. It's got a lot of torque, but not a lot of top end necessarily.
So this is the Tesla Model 3. Drew is a pretty talented driver and ran really well at Pikes Peak International. And I think that track was basically ideal conditions for a Tesla Model 3. Because all the gasoline-powered cars are battling with altitude, battling with temperatures, all of those things, and the Tesla's really not doing any of that. Plus, also, the track is kind of short, and it's a little bit autocross-like in the infield. All those things worked out really well for that car. It'll be interesting to see how much of a disadvantage he's at in the track mod group in the Tesla.
Well, he just came across the line, and I would never know. I didn't hear it, but I did see it pop up on the scoring pylon, and he just went to a 312, 395 as Josh Halka goes second overall, 304, 580 in his street all-wheel drive car. So Halka up to P2 overall here in this session, and again, that Drew Cleaver in the Model 3, 312, 395. On his car. So, again, I didn't even think about that. It's so easy to hear cars go by except when they're electric.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, and I think, too, so much of the Pikes Peak track is about maintaining your speed.
Yep.
And that works really okay in a car that's heavy. In a track like this, where you've got brake zones followed by very long accelerations, the heavier your car is, the more clearly you're at a disadvantage.
Yes. We did see Orange Crush Racing come across the 298 car ran a 304, 869. That's third overall in the session. We have a black flag on course. And taking a look here, I don't see. I'm looking at I'm kind of cheating. I'm looking through the glass into the race control room. I see some recovery vehicles rolling from turn 5, so that would indicate that somewhere between 5 and maybe the kink, we've got somebody off potentially. So I'm having a look. I don't see anything immediately, but I would imagine that we've got someone somewhere that where they shouldn't be. But all right, no, I don't see anybody. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they're off in a place where they didn't touch anything.
Well, I always get so nervous, right? Because I know all these guys, and it's exciting to see them go fast, but it's nerve-wracking too.
It's nerve-wracking, and we talk about a place like PPIR. I think that was an interesting track because it's half oval and there's concrete walls at an oval, and you're carrying a lot of speed because there's 12 degrees of banking there. A place like this is nerve-wracking in a different way. I mean, I think you feel very comfortable on the straightaways. Then you get to the end of the straight, you look down, and you go, uh-oh, I'm going real fast, and if things go wrong here, it's going to be a long ride to find something. So I think really for me, it's not the first two sectors. As you get that third sector, really from the kink on out, is really where things get a little bit scary. But it's part of the risk. I think you go out there and you're in a race car at a racetrack. Things happen. You will find your way off the racetrack, and you just hope that you do it in a way that's you get home.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get some right seat opportunity with both Alex Moss and Jackie Ding, who are top competitors in the Street Mod group at Pikes Peak, and it was kind of amazing to feel the differences in how the cars deliver power. Right, you've got Jackie Ding's TA90 Supra that is very refined. It's a modern car, modern chassis, and it felt really composed at all levels of speed. And if you compare that to Alex Moss's car, by example, it felt like an S2000 with 600 horsepower, which is fast, but also kind of overwhelming, where you're kind of working the car the whole time. It's just a different experience.
It sure is. We do know that the incident was on driver's right entering turn number 5. The driver had to get out of the vehicle, so potentially a fire there, but that's unconfirmed at this time. Still don't know what car that it was, but hopefully they will be all right. So they got out of the car, so they're good there. We're just waiting to see what car it was and if it sustained any damage. So that's unfortunate, but again, that's Road America. It's not a place to where it's easy or fun to go off at any particular spot. So while we wait here, we got black flags again for all drivers returning to the pits. If anybody's watching in chat and would like to have a conversation, let us know what you want to know, and we'll try to do our best to fill you in. If you've got questions about the upcoming GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race, questions for myself or Abe are always welcome to an extent. We'll see how crazy people get with that. And it looks like it was Micaiah Hackbarth in the 49.
That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's not fun.
He's coming off a fresh rebuild of that car. So he said that this is really the first event since everything was done. I kind of expect some shakedown, some bugs and things. Let's hope that all the components on the car are okay.
Yep, and I'm sure we'll be able to hopefully see it when it comes back in, and hopefully it's still in one piece and can be repaired, or at least I think the driver's fine. So I think that's the most important thing. 15 minutes have elapsed in this session. I don't think we're going to see a green again in this one, so we'll probably move on to our next group as. We've got about 19 drivers that started laps and only about 10 that have recorded laps. Ben Thorne's been out there, quickest lap in this session of 3:14.961 for the 66. He's down in 9th overall right now. Weather is looking great for tomorrow. That's to inline 6. It's looking a lot better than today. It's not even that bad today. It's just dreary. It's not horrible thunderstorming weather.
It's raining Mike's harder.
It's raining Mike's harder. Dude, that's sweet. But no, tomorrow is supposed to be low 70s and mostly sunny, and it's going to be a good day. And we got a lot of action tomorrow, 3 GLTC races and a bunch of time attack sessions. Make sure you're tuned in for that. And to make sure you catch it all. It's starting at 8:20 tomorrow, early day.
Early day. Can't stay up too late tonight.
No, I was up a little too late last night, I think. Just because it's you see your buddies and you're staying socially distanced. You want to catch up with everybody, and I was doing that last night. And I looked down and go, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got to be up at 6 tomorrow. And it was just a lot of running around, so a lot of riffraff.
Yeah, there's some riffraff. Looks like we've got the schedule up for Sunday on the screen here. We've got starting at 8:20, really alternating time attack and GLTC. Kind of bangers all the way till probably after right around 3:30. So should be an exciting day on broadcast tomorrow. Yeah,
we're really looking forward to it. And again, this GLTC race weekend's a little bit different because if you look at the entry list of the field of cars that we have, the talent runs super deep. I would be confident in saying that this is the most competitive GLTC field that we've ever seen. I think Road Atlanta last year we had a pretty competitive field, but it was more like the mid-pack battles. I think this will be a 15th forward anybody could win. And again, we'll briefly talk about the results from GLTC qualifying earlier and show you how many. I don't even know how many cars are in here. Let's have a look. 37 cars recorded times in qualifying. So that's a lot of cars for GLTC, and they were all within time-wise pretty close, considering that the conditions were wildly all over the place and with drivers with vastly different tires. So I think today is going to be a good kind of damp to dry session race to kind of see where people are going to stack up. Tomorrow should be dry, and we'll see the fastest and the cream of the crop rise to the top, or whatever the saying is. Cream to the crop. What's the saying?
It's one of those.
This is one of the things. So with that, tomorrow we've got that coming up, but we want to thank our sponsors that have brought us this amazing coverage. And of course, Falcon Tire, the RT660 tire, peak performance inspired by enthusiasts. FCP Euro, if we wouldn't put it on our cars, we won't sell it to you. Haltech, unlock the power. Oh, that's SC Suspension. We're in the wrong order here. I got to have them fix that. There's Haltech. SC Suspension's on with us this week. There's Haltech. We wouldn't put it on our cars. We won't sell it to you. Staybill is with us this week, and we want to thank them for Ready, Willing, Staybill. And Mike's harder. Dude, that's sweet. We'll get these sorted out a little bit better as I kind of got to get the order down. There's a when you do these sponsor runs, you got to get them in the head. And there's Mike Joy from NASCAR does such a good job with these. I'm trying to be like Mike Joy.
Be more like
Mike Joy. And I'm trying to get in the groove. I'm not in the groove yet. So we'll get there.
Takes a little time.
Yeah. I need to see some GLTC racing and I'll be in the groove. I got to get my head in that space. But someone asked me, I think Jared DeAnda last time asked me about my favorite commentator. I think I said Mike Joy. And everyone knows I'm a big fan of John Heintoff over on IMSA Radio. Love that guy. But I love that guy because he's got a cool voice, and I don't have that voice, so I can't be Mike or John Heintoff. I can be Mike Joy.
I can't speak exclusively to racing commentary, but I think my favorite overall sports commentator is shoot, the name escapes me. I'll think of it later.
Yeah,
Gus Johnson.
Gus Johnson. Okay.
I love Gus Johnson.
Yeah. So again, I think Heintoff. I love him because he's got the Britishisms that I'm so associated with. Last last arrow in the quiver is one of his little sayings. I'm like, that's so cool. You're such a cool dude. I want to be like you. But I don't have any fun sayings like that yet, but we'll get there.
So just a little bit of a delay here. Looks like we're trying to deal with Makaya's incident on track. I hope everything is all right on that car.
Yeah, and I think we haven't gotten a glimpse of it yet, but I think, like we said earlier, I think with any event you try to be as careful as you can with your car, but there is a possibility, and you bring a race car to a racetrack, and there's always that possibility that things will go wrong. It's not always driver's fault either. Things break, and race cars, as you mentioned earlier, they're never. What was the saying?
No, a race car is never currently fixed. It's always just not currently broken.
Yeah. So
right, because I think the attitude is, if you're not breaking stuff, you're probably not trying hard enough, right? The car should always be going faster,
right?
Especially in time attack. This isn't quite like GLTC where you're limited in performance in your power to weight. You can still be changing and modifying things, but in time attack, the goal is to go faster than you ever have before. And so invariably that means that at some point you will find the weak point in the car and it'll break and you'll have to fix it. And then that component will be better and you'll find the next, weakest component on the car and break that.
Someone had a question, are there any Mercedes in competition here this week? I don't know. There's a Jaguar out there.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's like it's not the what's the one? I don't know Jaguars. I was going to try to say the model, but I don't know. It's
I know that there is a Mercedes GLTC car here.
There is.
I have seen that one. I think it's a 190.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is. And I don't know if that's.
Okay, I'm not seeing. We're seeing Makaya's
doesn't look
car roll by on the flatbed, and I don't see any mechanical damage.
You know what?
Like physical damage. But.
Right. And we're only seeing the left side of it, but I do see the hazards going on that car, which I think a lot of the German manufacturers will have the hazards come on when they sense an impact. But the thing that's interesting about Road America is the sawtooth curbing is so violent that when I was here for World Challenge, I saw cars go into limp mode because they hit the curbing so hard that the car thought it crashed. So I wonder if that's a possibility,
could
right?
Be.
There are pretty gnarly curbs on the entry to turn 5, so that could have also triggered that as well. But in terms of Mercedes and time attack, I don't think so. But there is the 190 Mercedes in GLTC. That's a cool looking race car. So make sure you tune in at 5:30 to catch that. Someone was asking about the Subaru Outback in HPDE. I don't know if there. I didn't see an Outback out there. Maybe there is, but I haven't really been. I was out there with an HPD earlier, so I didn't really get a good look at exactly what other cars were out on track. So, don't know is the answer to that question. All right. It's not an F-type Jaguar. It's like a four-door, like, long, skinny thing. I don't know. So I was talking with Ed and Promo, and they told me what it was earlier. Maybe if I Google it. Jaguar. It's not what is it? I don't know. I have to ask Ed. It's a Jaguar. It's cool. It's a British car. It's big. It's loud. It's cool. So I'm a fan of it. So we do have a green flag, and there are a car, that's Boyson, returning to the track in his C8 Corvette.
So Boyson has brought kind of a litany of cars to events. He brings a semi truck, and it's always loaded with goodies. And in our first year with Jeremy Boyson on track, he time attacked a Lamborghini Huracan Performante, which I thought was excellent. And he's kind of made his way through some Porsches, and now he's driving a C8. He's always a really good sport, and he's just out here having a good time.
Yeah, I think having a good time is super important, especially when it's wet like this. You're not going to break any records. Go out there, have fun, get a smile on your face. That was my goal when I did the beginner HPDE stuff. My goal wasn't to go out there and be fast. I mean, I'm in a spec Miata, and I'm new to it. I don't want to be fast. I want to learn, and I want to not do stupid things.
Right.
I want to have a smile on my face. And I was focused. I came back in and I go, that was awesome. That was so fun. And I think I accomplished my goals this weekend.
Yeah, so you see Boyson coming through the Sargento Bridge here, and will make his way to start-finish to start his first hot lap.
Someone was asking why it was black flagged. We had a car go off at the entry on driver's right to turn number 5. Driver got out of the vehicle, presumably for fire or smoke in the cockpit. That car has been recovered and returned to the paddock space. And it was a little far away, but from our view, it didn't seem like there was any physical damage to it, but we'll have to inspect that a little bit later when we drop on down. Green flag is back out, though, and Ben Thorne across the line to start a flyer in his number 66 car. And again, Ben works with Gears and Gasoline, a great YouTube channel that covers a lot of GridLife focused content. So make sure you check them out. And the Daily Racer is another YouTube channel. If you like GridLife style YouTube content, the Daily Racer does GridLife Touring Cup focused action, focusing mainly on the Myriad Motorsports crew. So that's a fun YouTube channel. They're sort of new to the space, and they've been doing a great job with it. So tune into that.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed watching the Daily Racer guys cover GLTC. It's really exciting. It's good content. It's dramatic. I think that particular paddock in general is kind of dramatic, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it really is, and I think what they bring, the Myriad Motorsports guys, they bring 2 or 3 cars to every event, and they've been they operate as a real team. They have matching liveries for 2 of those cars, which I always approve of. I think that's real cool. There's Drew Cleaver heading up the hill in the 717. That's that Model 3 Tesla, and he'll start another lap here. And it's going pretty good down the front straight here. And I'm going to listen for it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any noise.
It's so weird. You just hear wind as it goes by. And he'll let off into turn 1, and a couple cars shuffling in the backstretch here.
So I'm getting updates from my friends in the paddock, and update on Makaya's TTRS is it's some kind of mechanical issue. No signs of physical impact anywhere, so that's really good to hear.
Yeah, that is good. And again, we saw the hazards going, so maybe it is the curbing that set it off, or some other, or maybe the car does it when it senses it's spun. I don't know. The Germans got all sorts of cool technology in their cars.
New cars are weird.
They are weird, but it was fun. When we were here for World Challenge, I saw a guy going on the exit curb out of turn 7, because we do have a caution on the racetrack here, so we'll keep an eye out for that. I saw a car track out on the turn 7 rumble strip and immediately go into limp mode because they hit those ripples.
I've seen incidents of certain manufacturer cars. If you hit the rumble strips too hard, you can set the airbags off, and it's kind of a wild scenario.
Yeah, they warned us in the beginner the classroom this morning to kind of stay off the curbs. I got into them a little bit. It wasn't my car, so I'm not going to go bend a wheel or anything. But man, I got them in a little bit, and they are so rough. We do have a yellow. I think it's just a local, but I see a black flag in the hand of the starter, and there it is, black flag again. Unfortunately, it has been a tricky session, this one.
Sometimes rain just does that. It's a tricky spot.
And there is the yellow and the black in the final corner, and I wonder if that's in turn 14, we should be able to almost see, but nobody on the front straight. So, again, a mystery car has found its way off course somewhere, and brings out the yellow flag here to end this session, or at least put drivers back to pit lane. All right, and Austin Cobb, one of our good buddies, is telling me that the curbs eat Miata hubs for breakfast. So I could tell.
Brutal.
Yes.
So it looks like the flagger has the black and yellow out. Probably just bringing a car back in. Hopefully no major incident here.
Yeah, and again, I don't know exactly where it is. And looking on the screens, I can't. Oh, I do see a car. It looks like it's in a gravel trap. Looks like it might be on the outside of the carousel. I can't tell if is Halka out on track? Maybe it could be Halka. I can't get a good look. I don't want to say it wrong. But that car didn't hit anything. It's just in a gravel trap, needs to be recovered. So no damage, hopefully, to that car. There is the 52.
I think that's Nick Gardner.
I think it is. Yes, Nicholas Gardner in the track mod rear-wheel drive car. And he will lead the pack to pit lane here.
So sometimes doing commentary is a little bit difficult here when you have these breaks in the session, right? But that's what time attack can be like.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times it's all or nothing. Where when the sessions go great, everybody's running fast laps, and sometimes you just can't catch a break.
So I want to do a little bit of experiment here while we're waiting. I know, so my job here is just announcing. So I got no skin in this game. But we got 300 and almost 400 people watching this stream right now on YouTube. We are only a couple hundred subscribers away from hitting 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. We got enough people watching the stream right now to hit the subscribe button and get over that hill. So let's see if we can do that. For those that are not subscribed, see if you can hit that button and bring us up to 5K by the end of the day. That'd be really rad. Hey, the Stayville man.
Shredding the gnar.
Shred the gnar. So shred the gnar, smash that button, and help us out, because the more people, the more of you guys that subscribe to us and like us on Facebook and keep the viewership here, it helps us bring the partners out to keep these things happening. There's Adam Jabay shooting the lasers.
So many lasers.
Yeah, no drift cars this weekend, but we still got the lasers, so we still got fun.
Lots of cool graphics on screen. Are really just jokes from Pikes Peak International, where we were doing GridLife Night Shift, where they're We actually did kind of a laser show during a drift session at night. It was kind of a wild experience. Oh, we got Larry Chen on screen here.
Yep.
Lots of stuff going on here on the feed.
There was a lot of stuff, and we want to thank Morgan and Matt and all the guys behind the scenes that have been working on this stream, running thousands of feet of fiber from corner to corner. This is a big place, and we wish we could reach farther, but it's so much distance to cover that it's a lot. It's a big track. So I appreciate their effort in getting everything set up. There's the unicorn with the laser horn. So. And the shark.
Oh, goodness.
Eating some SC suspension. And shred the gnar. But they're having a good time back there.
So it looks like we've got Orange Crush Racing taking the exit into, or I guess out of pit lane. Looks like the next session is going to be going back to the paddock.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close to the end of this session's been going for, we've got it recorded for 31 minutes. I'm not sure if that timer just didn't get reset or not, but it seems like it should be the end of it. This is still Group A? Or is this Group B? I'm seeing Group A. I don't know, man. Who knows? But I don't really think a lot of cars really got much of an opportunity to run laps. So, if you're watching right now, in 50 minutes, we go racing for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. So, do not go, or if you do go, come back.
You know, we talked about
an M3, also another red M3. So.
I think this is right. His wife runs a lovely Instagram called Paddock Puppies.
I did not know that.
And it's usually just pictures of dogs at GRIDLIFE events in the paddock.
I mean,
it's great.
That's awesome. There's a bunch of woofies around here today. I've been finding them and tracking them down. I'm a little bit dog deprived at the moment, so it's good to. My dad always says that you pet other people's dogs because dogs are. He calls them a tether. we had a yellow lab for 12 or 13 years. I loved him, but he was a nightmare. So my parents said, no more, we're done. I can wear black clothes around the house now because he was a yellow lab, so I'd always have
just covered
hair everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I've got 2 dogs in the RV right now. They're just hanging out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do miss the companionship just a little bit. We have cats. Cats are not dogs. I like cats.
You know what? The nicest thing you can say about a cat is that it acts like a dog. If that's the nicest thing you can say, maybe you should just get a dog.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I like them because they're fluffy. I mean, that's fun. I mean, we have 2 cats. One of them is hellspawn, and the other is actually okay. So we have 2 different personalities there. But I'm sure everyone knows what we're talking about with cats versus dogs. But I probably consider myself a cat person. I like cats, but dogs always love you. You don't have to like fight for approval like you do with a cat,
So looks like I'm not sure if they throw checker here yet, but we don't really look like we have drivers at pace. So
No.
Jason's coming around decently quick.
We do have a checker now from the start stand here. So that will end this session, and we'll again have a short break until we have GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 1 for the weekend at 5:30.
Very, very excited.
I can't wait. I've been waiting for this race. I wasn't here last year when they ran this, and this wasn't streamed last year, so all I got to see was onboard videos of them doing 3 wide heading to the kink, and then they did 2 wide through the kink. And I was like, if I could have watched that, I'm known for getting a little bit. My bandwidth goes to 0 at the start of these races. I get really excited. I would have fallen over and passed out had I been here last year. So I'm excited to see.
You're like a calculator dividing by 0.
It's hard. I'm trying to get better at it. And coming from the sim racing world, it's low stakes there, right? So it's easier to stay calm. But I'm having such a good time when they throw that green flag. I get a little giddy, and it's hard to bring myself. It's hard to bring myself back down to the level of like, okay, we got to do a job, got to focus, so people aren't just here, blah, blah, 5 wide. You got to make sense.
Well, yeah, the start is always really tricky because that's really where everything happens, especially coming. On a track that's wide like this that can accommodate potentially 3 to 4 wide, going into turn 1, I think drivers really have to decide how much courage they have and how willing they are to fight for that lead position.
Well, there's a car that's found off into the gravel. That, I believe,
looks like car 76.
Yes, which, looking at my cheat sheet here, the 76 car is David Otterbury in the street. Is that street mod car? Yes, it is. Street mod. His best time this session of 3:23, 1:57, and he's also off in 14. So, and you can actually see where he's gone off straight into the braking zone. So you can see actually in the middle of your screen where that safety truck is, you can actually see where the pavement actually undulates a little bit. It's pretty bumpy there. And then you get onto that glass smooth pavement. I wonder if the bumps upset the car, locked up, and maybe he just found his way off that
Yeah, it could be. It looks like the gravel trap saved him here. He's getting close to the wall. That's not really the place you want to be.
No, I like to be a little farther from the concrete than where he is. But again, no damage on that car. So that's every time you go off at Road America and you don't hit something, that's a success.
Absolutely.
So it's like every airplane landing you can walk away from is a good landing. It's sort of like that. And I think he's actually not even really dug in that deep in the gravel, so he might just be disabled. Like the car just might be disabled. But I don't know if he would have gone that far.
You know, I think once the gravel gets wet here, if you try and drive your way out, I'm pretty sure that's just how you get buried.
Yeah, so maybe he just didn't bother to try because you get yourself stuck. All right. So waiting for this pole to happen, and then I am waiting to start seeing cars stacking up for GLTC, because that's going to be one heck of a drone shot if we can get that. All the 40 cars on pit lane, 20 rows deep.
Man.
It's like a NASCAR field out here, you know?
I'm looking forward to it.
We also have, for our Midwest Fest, we're going to have like over 50, which is like insane. I don't even know how you fit 50 cars on that track.
Yeah, I think when I was talking with Adam about it, I think he was saying that there is a chance that we'll have a flagger at turn 11, just in case the final rows of cars aren't yet through that corner by the time the green flag is dropped. So it should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're hoping to get some drone shots up for you for that race as well. We're going to cross our fingers and do a little rain dance that stays dry enough to do that, because I think we're going to need the coverage from those drones to get us where we need to go for the start and down into turn 5, that awesome passing opportunity down there into the braking zone. So, again, our races for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup are 15 minutes long. If you're not familiar with GLTC, GRIDLIFE Touring Cup is designed to promote close racing between cars of all shapes and sizes using an open time attack style rule set. The goal is to balance cars with power, weight, and tire size. There's not a lot of places where you can see an M3, a minivan, a Miata, and a Camaro all running together on equal ground, but they can in GLTC, and that's what's so exciting is this is, there's a lot of racing series that fight really hard to get parity between cars. Here, if you want parity, you make your car better, and there's the rule set is open enough where you can do that, and you can enter anything you want. Basic within rule. I mean, it's got to be a street car, and it can't be a tube frame chassis, that sort of thing. But you want to go get a Honda Odyssey, go get it. Put a roll cage in it. One ran on a stock engine and transmission at Road Atlanta and finished like 18th in points out of 30-something cars.
Yeah,
which is like really good. That's Carl Hurdle and the HMA Racing team guys.
And they have a ton of experience. They've done one lap of America in that minivan, and also now GLTC, and cars sorted, and it's fun to watch.
And there was a picture from last year at Road Atlanta where we had the minivan, a Miata with a wing, and then a V6 Mustang with no aero, like all side by side together at Road Atlanta Turn 1. I go, if you can find me a racing series that can do that, then I might go watch that. But I can't. There's nothing else better than GLTC. Right? Trust me, I watch a lot of racing. I'm a big IMSA fan.
You strike me as a guy who watches a lot of racing.
You think? Yeah, I watch a lot of racing between, in the sim environment as well as the real world. I'm a NASCAR fan, watch IMSA, World Challenge, and Formula One, and I can't get excited about those series as much as I get excited about GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, because they're not cars that I can relate to. And maybe that's more true of something like World Challenge or IMSA, where it's Porsches and Corvettes and that sort of thing, but I've never driven a Porsche. I've never driven a Corvette. I have driven Civics. And I haven't driven an S2000, but I've driven Miatas.
Well, and it also feels kind of within reach, right? Like,
it does.
That's not to say that the teams running cars in GLTC at the front aren't putting forth a pretty substantial effort.
Sure.
But you can buy a Civic chassis for $4,000 or $5,000, and if you put a cage in it and do some basic prep work, we're talking about cars that make plus or minus 200-ish horsepower. And if you get the weight right, like that's all it takes. And I think there's something really sexy about running time attack in cars with 600 horsepower, but it's expensive to try and run programs where you're making that much power. Things break. And at 200 horsepower, things just seem more attractive.
So the other thing about GLTC that I love is that the field is so deep. Like you could spend the money to run second, third, and fourth. You can do that. You can also enter a spec Miata unchanged in the series, and you can have people to race against. The field is so deep that we have a significant number of cars battling at the front. We have a great mid-pack battle, and then the guys hanging out the back they're having the most fun with the smiles on their face because they're all racing each other too.
Yeah, coming to a series like this, you're really enjoying the opportunity to compete wherever it is on track. And just because you're not at the front doesn't mean you're not battling hard.
Right. So again, there's a lot to love about this series. And the other thing is the sprint race format. I mentioned 15-minute races. Races can't get stretched out and boring in 15 minutes. They're always going to be exciting, and that's by design. It's a spectator event, and it's I think we have some spectators out here this weekend that are enjoying it, and I think it's great for live streams as well, and it's fit very well into that formula. And it's also we also had the cool qualifying format we did at PPIR in Mid-Ohio that didn't make it here because it's such a big track, but there's a lot to be said about what GridLife Touring Cup is doing right, and I think it'll only get better from here.
So we're making our way now. Time Attack now has concluded. We've got HPD out on track, and I'm just kind of sitting on the edge of my seat until we start GLTC.
Yeah, I think we might take a break here in a minute. We'll see what we want to do. But cars on track now. I think the HPD session on track. And I mentioned briefly for those that have not been here all day. I've run the HPD beginner program here this morning, and again, if you're on the fence about doing it, just do it. Find a track that's near you, enter your car in HPDE in the beginner program, and do it because you will not regret it.
And it's my experience, and I think others in the paddock will tell you that the perfect time to start driving on track is actually it's right now. It's not it's not when I get this mod or that mod or after I do this or that or after I need new super grippy tires. No, those aren't the prerequisites to go out and enjoy yourself on track, right? So get a car that runs where you can do some laps and do it reliably, where you're not working on the car all weekend, and you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. We're going to head to break here, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes with GridLife Touring Cup. But for the time being, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Falcon Tires, with us this week, Abe. And Falcon, I know Tom's running some Falcons out there today. FCP Euro is with us again, sponsoring GridLife Live. ST Suspensions, sponsoring GridLife Live. And Haltech Engine Management Systems for GridLife Live. And Staybill on board with us this week here at Road America. We want to appreciate their support as well as Mike's Harder. And dude, that's sweet. I love that. That's a fun little tagline.
Yeah,
I'm a fan.
Kyle and I are going to be on the hunt for Mike's Harder this evening.
I'm going to go get some. I haven't had any yet, and I feel like I need to go get some to feel it. So we're gonna do that later tonight. But we'll be back in about 20 minutes for GLTC. Hang tight for 5:30 Central. Usually in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, an early September weekend would be a beautiful time to go out and enjoy the sights and sounds of the area. Right now, it's not so pretty out there. It's a little bit dreary and miserable outside. But I think what we're seeing out here, Abe, is we've got some pretty nasty weather that has started to clear up a little bit. I think your mic is working. I think the light is just out. I've been hearing you in my headset the whole time. So
all right.
I think you're good. We'll confirm with that here in a little bit. But it has usually been a kind of a dreary day so far here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin's Road America, the National Park of Speed. We've got GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 1 action coming at you in just a moment. We've got cars staged up on false grid as we get ready to roll out for a 4-mile pace lap. A long time to get tires warmed up here. And did you lose power? I wonder. Do we have...
I got no power.
I can still hear you, though, so I think we're good.
All right.
I want to say that you're good. I think you just lost. Okay, we hear Abe. So sorry for we got some potential technical problems, but it sounds like everybody's still good. So as I was saying, we've got 40 cars here this weekend for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. We're going to go racing for 15 minutes on a damp racetrack. For the first time this weekend, we've only had practice and qualifying. This is the first time we've had a field this big since Gingerman earlier this year, and even then we're still 15 cars over that. So this is the first time, I would say, all the way since we ran at, I don't know, probably Road Atlanta last year, that we had over 35 cars.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think we talked a little bit about how competitive the front of this pack is going to be. There will probably be about 15 cars that'll be in solid contention for a race win here in Race 1.
Absolutely. So cars rolling now behind our little Honda Fit pace car this time around. So Todd Cayley is the pole sitter for this race. And while we're getting cars rolling, let's roll through our starting lineup here, Abe. On the front row, Todd Cayley with a 250.666. He is the fastest driver in Wisconsin this morning. Tom O'Gorman will start on the outside of row number 1.
In third position, Pervez Randalia will be followed shortly by Eric Cattell, car number 82.
In row number 3, Emil Tabs, number 14, Kei Miata out of the winning Formula Camp. Aaron Lichty, his teammate, will roll off in 6th. He is the points leader by over 75. He looks to continue what he did last year with a 4-race lockout of the weekend last September.
In 7th spot, car number 802, Woody Hyman, will be followed by car number 86, Justin Kelly, in his S2000 swapped FRS.
Yes, and starting in 9th in row number 5, Scott Bowling's number 722, Porsche Cayman, and Andy Smedgard, the 212 driver who dominated at PPIR, won 3 of the 4 races there. He'll start in 10th.
In 11th spot, car number 5, which is also the number of engine swaps that Luke McGrew has done this year. He'll be starting in position number 11, and then followed by car number 68, Tiffany Kelly, in her S2000.
Rob Manicherry, the last man in the winning Formula crew today, in 13th in qualifying. He'll be on the inside of row number 7. Then Vitus Aronauskis in the 99 car, first GLTC race for him. He'll start 14th.
Car 15th spot, car number 99 is Jeremy Boyson, followed by car number 23, Jake Jorenstad.
Brandon Puck starts in 17th in row number 9. Jonathan Yu starts 18th in the number 200 BMW.
In the 19th spot, number 13, Ryan Upham in his, I think it's an E36 BMW.
Yep.
Followed by, lost my spot here.
Kerry James.
Kerry James, car number 44 in the 20th position.
And we'll stop there. There's another 15 or 20 cars that are in this race. One notable driver that's not in that list, you just saw him go by on the screen, that's DJ Alessandrini, the number 61 Speedbox Civic. He does not have wet weather tires. He's going to be out there on street tires. I wonder if they're going to be running slicks. Again, I said if it wasn't actively raining earlier, I want slick tires.
You know,
not actively
I'm
raining
seeing
here.
spray coming off these cars. I would
You
be
think?
surprised if these drivers aren't going to opt to run wet weather tires.
Well, it is definitely still wet out there for sure. We'll see if it dries out throughout the rest of the race. Eric Meadows is also back there in 23rd. I think he's faster than 23rd, so I think we'll see him move up here just a little bit. Ben Harisco's out there as well in the number 52, and his start in 29th. And I want to thank Ben Harisco again for letting me have that. His old GLTC car, his NA Miata, that he let me play around with an HPD. So thanks, Ben, for that. I appreciate that. Louis Chatroop ran at Gingerman and Autobahn Country Club earlier this year. He rolls off 31st. Savannah Little is here in a Spec MX-5 Challenge car. She's in the 194. She'll roll off in 32nd. And that car is way under prep for the category, but she did a spectacular job in her first event at Colorado last week, or a couple weeks ago, I should say. And I'm really excited to see what she can do in that little car. It's purple and black and looks really cool, and it rolls off 32nd here today.
Yeah, we've got quite a lot of space between drivers here on this this pace lap. I think things are going to need to tighten up quite a bit before we see the green flag.
Yeah, and again, this is a pretty big place, and I did hear that we're going to speed up the pace lap just a touch. We're going to do it about 65 miles an hour versus 45. The trouble is, a pace lap at 65 in the wet is not necessarily a super safe thing to do. You got to get drivers bunched up pretty tight. And at 65 miles an hour, heading into turn 8 or 5, you got to slow way down. So a lot of attention has to be paid on the pace lap here before we turn them loose for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think drivers are going to have to just get their head in the right place and get ready for a tough race.
So let's talk about the racetrack just a little bit. It's an FIA Grade 2 circuit built in 1955. It has 14 corners. You're looking at corners 13 and 14 in that shot. It's 4.048 miles around the racetrack. It was built back in a time when racetracks were built sort of on top of the land, not cutting through it. And it's 32 feet wide in its narrowest spots, the same exact width it was back in 1955, which is a really cool kind of addition. It's definitely an old-fashioned American road course. Lots to come out and bite you if you don't do things right.
Most definitely, and it's such a scenic place. I mean, it's really quite literally built in the middle of a forest, and there's plenty of things to see and do here when you're not watching racing. It's just an awesome place in Wisconsin.
So the cars are working their way now through the Canada corner, the northernmost point of the circuit, and heading up the hill towards turn 13 and 14, where we'll see them briefly before they come into shot on the front straight, and then the run down to turn 1, climbing through the gears, and now 40 GRIDLIFE Touring Cup cars for the GRIDLIFE Elkhart Classic, about to go racing for the second time in GLTC's history, the strongest field we've ever seen, with Todd Cayley and Tom O'Gorman in a silver S2000 and a yellow S2000 side by side. Behind him, Pervez Randilia and his FRS, Eric Catil, Emil Tab, Upham, and more. You know, one driver I don't see out there is Aaron Lichty. He's back a couple rows farther. I don't actually see, that's Rob Manicherry. I don't know where Aaron Lichty is. I think that's Rob Manicherry. He's got the black nose on that car. So
could have trouble that prevented him from taking the start of this race.
Well, that's big for the points implications. Eric Catil might be smiling under the helmet there as the field climbs the hill at Road America. 4 miles around, 15 minutes to play in GRIDLIFE Elkhart Classic for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup.
Bunching up here.
As green flag flies, we're racing and accelerating now onto the damp racetrack. Wipers flying back and forth as the field thunders down to turn number 1. Todd Cayley noses out ahead. Nice, clean, orderly start from what I've seen so far. Ryan Kristoff at the back after a transmission change. He'll be very ginger into turn number 1, and so far so good from what I've seen as they'll head off into the middle sector of this course. I think so far we've kept everybody on track and safe, and that's a big accomplishment with this many cars on this track in the wet. Abe, I'm happy and surprised a little bit that we got through there without any contact.
Yeah, very lucky. Lots of cars in this field in a wet track. Always a possibility to lose some cars into turn 1.
Tom O'Gorman, I think, is the race leader as they come out of turn number 3 and head through 4 and down to 5. I think Todd Cayley's Silver S2000's dropped out of the race lead. Yes, he has. He's back to 4th now. Looks like Eric Catil was the one that jumped to the front there on the backstretch. And now the run down into turn number 5, the spray. You can see how poor the visibility is for these drivers as they head off into one of the best passing opportunities of this racetrack, and you cannot see anything right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough to pass when you can't see anything.
So I think, again, I think drivers will be pretty ginger for the first few laps here as they kind of understand where the grip is. And so far, so good through 5. I'm just watching security footage in the other room to try to make sure that we can catch everything that's going on. But now up through turn 6, you're going to crest a hill. The car gets light as you come over that crest. And then through 7, 8, and 9, down through the Kettle Bottoms area. Then the carousel, which is a challenging corner. No banking to save you there. You're just sliding the front tires all the way through. And then the kink at high speed. It's terrifying. At low speed, it's terrifying. It's a fast corner, and GRIDLIFE Touring Cup drivers here, Abe, will have to respect it on lap number 1.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's going to be a unique experience coming through in a race like this. Drivers making probably a last-minute call on what tires they should use. See if it'll pay dividends for the guys at the front.
Down into turn 8, no dramas. There's one car a little bit wide. I didn't see what car it was. I think it's Andrew Work's Civic. He's gone way wide at the exit of turn 8 on the grass. He's rejoined now safely. So Work goes for a little bit of a slip and slide in his orange Honda Civic. That is the only off-track excursion we've seen so far. Everyone taking it very slowly around here as they sweep through the carousel and now into the kink at speed. The spray from the cars in front flying up. Leaders are through and clear of the kink.
So as they make their way up to Canada Corner, this is probably one of the last great passing opportunities breaking into turn 12. See if people can, take a position and hold it before they come their way back around start finish.
Here comes Eric Cattell. He's got the race lead, and with Aaron Lichty seemingly not in this race, this is huge for his points implications. To the front, Tom O'Gorman behind him. These are two of the speedbox cars. Big slide for Tom O'Gorman at the exit of turn 14. He held onto it, but as he comes up the hill, that was certainly a gut check moment. You do not want to lose a car there. As here comes Emil Tab to driver's left.
Yeah, Tab really capitalizing on that stutter moment from O'Gorman.
And through across the line, Emil Tab will take over second place from Tom O'Gorman. He's back to third. Kaylee fourth. Pervez Randalia fifth. Then it's, I think that's Woody Hyman in sixth. Yes, it is. Then across the line next, it's Scott Bowling. He's gained a couple spots since the start of the race. Justin Kelly, who started eighth, he's dropped all the way down. Jeremy Boysen, eighth. Brandon Puck, ninth. Andy Smedgard in 10th as they come on through for lap one. DJ Alessandrini, how about this, Abe? 22nd to 11th. Unbelievable for DJ.
So we'll see this field shake up for tomorrow for sure as the weather dries out. But this rain race is really pretty chaotic.
We have drone now as we come out of turn number 3 in the run down to 5. Cattell leads by about 12 car lengths over Emil Tab. And I'm curious to see what Pervez Randalia is capable of that car. He was really fast in qualifying and is staying inside that top 5 now as the field thunders under the bridge down the backstretch towards turn 5 again.
Well,
caution. Full course caution on the racetrack. And I'm trying to see where it is. And it looks like I think we have a driver's left incident. I'm not exactly sure where on track it is, but we do have a full course yellow on the racetrack. So procedures here for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. Slow down to caution speed, find the pace car, and we'll re-rack him and restack him if we have time to go again. We just have to wait and see what the situation is and where that car is located that has gone off. And I don't see it immediately on the footage in the control center, but we are missing, are we missing Justin Kelly?
Ooh, got some drone footage.
We are missing Luke McGrew and Ben Harisco. They have not returned past the timing line. Aaron Lichty did. So it's either Luke McGrew or Ben Harisco, at least based on my timing here as we come through the carousel as the field's under full course now.
So slowing way down here, we're making their way through. I believe that's turns 9, 10, on their way up to the kink.
Yeah, so again, the field's going to re-rack and restack. We'll try this again here as soon as we get that car pulled back. And Luke McGrew, I can't remember where he started this race. Actually, I could go back and look here. Luke McGrew was supposed to start, I think, back in, let's see, where was he? I don't think he was that far back. Luke was supposed to start. He was supposed to start 11th. So I think, was he accounted for on the start? Because I know that Aaron Lichty obviously started at the rear for whatever reason, and we're not exactly sure why that was the case. But we still don't know exactly what car is off. There is the flashing yellow for the full course indication as we head over towards the kink. And again, a high-speed corner, Abe, a lot of potential for dramas.
Yeah, and because the length or the duration for GLTC races, this yellow flag may really only mean 1 or 2 more hot laps at most. And so drivers really need to seize opportunities when they have it because there's really not much time to try and make your moves.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of time. And again, the pace laps here are going to take a few minutes apiece. We'll do at least 2 or 3 before we get a chance to do this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this race even end under caution, depending on what condition that car is in that needs to be returned. I do see tire marks in a gravel trap over by Canada Corner, but there's no car there anymore. So
I also got notification from our motorsports director, Adam Chappé, that Luke McGrew has pulled off because the car is it's breaking up under power, and so the driver pulled off there.
Okay, so
hopefully
it was
no
not
major
him.
issues.
Okay, so it wasn't Luke McGrew that is on track right now with issues. So that leaves Ben Harisco as the only driver on timing and scoring that did not return to the timing loop. So it could be Harisco that's out there right now. Again, I don't exactly know where on track he would be located. But under full course yellow here, so no passing under these conditions. You have to slow down to a reasonable speed until you catch the safety car. And then we'll single file them back out. Just single file restarts here in GLTC. And we'll get this car removed off the racetrack as we come on through. But how about DJ Alessandrini? That first lap, 22nd to 11th.
That's a big move.
I just can't. And he's not on wet tires either. He is on street tires.
Really earning it there for sure.
And his goal to me, he said if he could get space, he wanted to just run a fast lap and qualify himself well for race 2. He thought race 1 was a loss.
Sure.
It's no longer a loss. He's back up to 11th. And remember, at Mid-Ohio, that was about as well as he could run on those street tires in the rain.
Well, you know what? And on this restart, he's got another opportunity again, right, to give it another shot.
But that's crucial, right? You mentioned that the full course yellow is going to bunch everybody back up. For a guy like DJ Alessandrini, who had to qualify in the wet earlier, couldn't get a good run there, he's going to get another chance to do another jump on this restart and have a good run down into turns 1 and 2. So we'll see if he can utilize that and gain some more positions. But in the meantime, he'll have to sit behind a safety car. What this does do is it reduces a lot of our time that we're going to have to race. What that means is that I think some drivers may view this as the intensity rising because you only have 2 or 3 minutes to get your job done. Some might say, okay, we've lost this race. This is not going to be a full GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race from start to finish. It's going to be under caution for about half of its distance. That's the nature of how short these races are. So the goal here for some drivers might be, let's back off, let's not crash the suit again tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really, really excited to see Emil Tab making up some positions. He's kind of been working through some teething issues on a new swap this year. Really fast driver in a new car. And it's great to see things finally start to come together.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job with that car. He's performed very well. He actually sits 4th in the point standings for the season, which is unbelievable. And he right now is running 2nd. And behind Eric Cattell, Eric Cattell's got a new swap in that car too. And I'm curious to see how these cars will do in the drag race down to turn 1.
Absolutely. And it looks like we've got overall season points leader Aaron Lichty running near the back at the start of this race. I'm curious what the circumstances were to lead to that.
Yeah, he started unofficially in 38th place. So I'm not exactly sure what he was doing back there, but I'll have to check in with him after, and you'll find out tomorrow morning when we do our second GLTC race. I will inform you on the whereabouts of where Aaron was at the start of this event.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that as they work through the carousel now. And I would love to see if we could find out where, because we still have full course displayed, so we're not going back green yet. But again, the whereabouts of the mystery car that have brought out our full course yellow. I do see a recovery tow truck coming out of turn 8, heading into the carousel. And so I guess my question would be where along the track after that. Again, this is, as a driver, my first time this weekend driving in Jalisco's Miata. I wasn't, turn 1 through 5, 1 through 6 really didn't bother me. Once you got down to like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, that whole backside of the track, that's the intimidating part for me.
Absolutely. Right, because, the front straight, breaking into turn 1, yeah, you're going very fast. But, you see the brake markers, you see the corner entry. It's a very clear strategy for making that corner. But when you start to get to the fast sections on the backside of the track, that's where a lot of the driver talent begins to shine.
Yeah, and I think the driver talent, and I think honestly their guts. I mean, the kink especially in conditions like this too. You really have to know what you're doing and have to trust yourself. And I didn't really trust myself over there, so that's why we got to kind of back it down and be careful. But race leader Eric Cattell, he won 3 of the last 8 races he's competed in. He ran at Mid-Ohio and won 3 of the 4 races that weekend. Went to PPIR, and I think everybody expected him to run well and win races there. Didn't win a single race there, and honestly didn't have as good of a weekend as he was expecting.
Yeah, struggled quite a bit. So we see the pace car not pulling in on this lap, which means more than likely it's that this race will finish under yellow.
Yeah, here's the white flag being displayed from the starter stand alongside the yellow. And that's a disappointing end to this one, unfortunately. But I think the conditions for wheel-to-wheel racing right now might not be ideal for 40-car fields. And we'll check in and see what happened. We'll tune you in tomorrow. But the white flag and the yellow flag have been waved simultaneously, which means that we will finish this race under caution flag, which is part of sports car race.
So I think the big winner here is DJ Alessandrini.
Yeah.
Taking up a number of positions and earning his way into a much more competitive spot for race number 2.
I think he did a great job there. I think he's going to be a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to go back green. The reason being because he was planning on running a fast lap by himself to run himself well or to get a good qualifying effort for race number 2. My big concern is if we qualify that race by lap time, we haven't had, well, I guess we had one sort of kind of full lap. In lap 1 for Eric Attila, 2:57.4. That would put him on pole for race 2. This is going to be real weird because we had some people, I think, got the full course before the lap was over. So I'm not sure if we're going to address, a caution coming out mid-lap 1 that ends the race. I think that's a challenge that we're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see the cars coming through here, the Sargento Bridge Honda Fit pace car. You know, GRIDLIFE loves the Honda Fit.
We sure do. But Eric Cattell, I mean, hey, let's talk about him for a second. He didn't start on the front row. He actually started in 4th, and he found his way to the front by the end of the first lap, which is impressive in its own right. Todd Cayley, I'm surprised that he found his way so far rearward. He ended up, he and Cattell basically swapped spots, and so did Tom O'Gorman and Emil Tabb.
Yeah, it's a really interesting circumstance because it was Todd Cayley that ran really fast in the wet for qualifying. I'm surprised that the race start caught him this far off guard.
Yeah, and we couldn't see down there in 1 and 2. Maybe he got wide and got up on the curbs and got loose or something. But I think his car out-drags Tom's in a straight line. I think once he got to the corner, maybe it was a mistake on the braking or somewhere out of turn 3, could have gotten loose somewhere. But Tom was able to out-drag him to turn 5. That's where Cattell found his way around Tom. So now looking through 5, and you can see those rumble strips on the right there, the white stripes. They are gnarly and will break your teeth, break your car.
It's not what you want.
No.
Stay away from those.
Yes, and you can see the fall tinting colors here as we see the orange kind of just dabbling the trees here in Elkhart Lake, and it's a really beautiful time of year. I want some sunshine. That would make life a lot easier right now, I think, for everyone.
I'm loving these drone shots.
They are spectacular, and look how nice this track is. I love the painted curb. Oh, there's DJ having a little fun out there. But it's a beautiful racetrack and a beautiful facility. I'm glad we get to race on it. I wish we could have gotten more green flag racing, though.
Yeah, sometimes things just don't go your way.
Yeah, and we still don't know the whereabouts of or what car it was. Again, the only car that I don't know the whereabouts of was Ben Harisco's number 52. But we will check in with you and tomorrow morning and update you on who that was. And I'm sure that the safety crews here are spectacular. They're very quick to respond. So if there was any need for that, I'm sure they got to him quick enough. I can't see where they went or how they got to him, but I'm sure that if it needed assistance, he got it in due time. So
yeah,
next,
one of the consequences of running an event like GRIDLIFE GLTC on a track like this is that it's just so big. It's from a production standpoint, it's very tricky to cover an event like this, like you might if you were IndyCar, for example.
Yeah, I think, and I was just talking about, sorry, I was reading some messages. DJ is on slicks, supposedly, and maybe that was the call. So I heard from Scott Giles, he was telling me that there's a lot of mixed tire strategy on the grid. Look at that shot. Okay, can we just, right here, this shot is why I love Road America so much. Look at this racetrack. This is the most beautiful racetrack in existence. Okay, maybe Spa has something to say about that, but this is such a beautiful, beautiful shot right here.
Now, maybe someday it would happen, but I would quite love to see Formula One, or make this a Grade 1 circuit and see Formula One come to a place like this.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about was if they convert to Grade 1 circuit, that they're going to ruin what makes it awesome.
That's true.
So I'm a little skeptical of that, but I agree that'd be cool to see. But now down towards Canada corner, and Tom O'Gorman's 94. He's going to be thrilled with this. I think Tom was going to be super happy. I'm sure he would have rather raced it out for sure, especially because his mistake out of 14 cost him a spot. But a podium finish for Tom, I don't know if he's got a podium.
I don't think so. This will be his first really good finish in a brand new car to him.
Yeah, he didn't get a podium at Mid-Ohio. That car still wasn't running exactly how he wanted it to, and I don't think he had one at PPIR either.
Sorry to everybody that can't see what's happening here in the booth, but Kyle is checking his book of statistics.
Yeah, well, they're not organized very well, but they are here. And I have PPIR race results, and I'm going to hunt them down. I have a lot of empty pages, too. I don't know what that's all about. So let's pull this out, and we'll see if this is Tom's first podium, because we got to celebrate this with a Mike's Harder later. So there we go. There's a shootout grid as they come up the hill. Eric Cattell for the 13th time in his racing career. And a baker's dozen, and just like Mike's Harder, this is going to be pretty sweet for Eric Cattell as they come up over the crest.
So
Tom O'Gorman had a fifth, that was fourth in the shootout. He had a fourth in race 1. He has not podiumed. This will be his first podium in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup today.
That's excellent.
And Emil Tabb, second place for winning Formula. Todd Cayley, fourth. Pervez Randilia in fifth. Woody Hyman pulls out a sixth spot. That's great for him. Scott Bowling, seventh place, top 10 for the Cayman. Awesome to see. Jeremy Boyson in eighth. Brennan Puck in ninth. Andy Smedgard in 10th. I think he probably would have liked to have done a little bit better in that race, and I think he's capable of much better than 10th. We'll see that tomorrow.
Yeah, he is quite comfortable here. I imagine in the dry, that car is going to be a podium contender for the rest of the weekend.
Absolutely.
So it might be a tricky position for him overall to compete for the weekend championship because finishing so far back in 10th place, but expect him to compete for individual race podiums for the rest of the 3 races tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll go on through a couple of other drivers. DJ Alcantara, we already mentioned. Ryan Upperman, 12th. He'll be pretty happy with that, +5 for him. Justin Kelly down 6 spots, so I think he'll probably want a bit more tomorrow. And checking out through the rest of the field, Ryan Kristoff, how about up 15? He started tail of the field, ended up 21st.
That's a big jump.
That's a big jump in a lap. Yeah, Savannah Little gained a spot in her Spec MX-5. And so she did a good job and kept it in one piece for the lap. Bill Griffin up a couple spots. Louis Chatroop up 1. So a lot of movement around the field. Aaron Lichty, though, 35th. He only has a couple of sub-20s, or I should say sub-top 5s in his career. And most of them were at Road Atlanta last year. So I don't think he'll be thrilled. But with that complete, let's talk about tomorrow's schedule. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be a pretty early one for us here up in the booth. We've got 8:20 Central is time attack. The 9:40 will be when you come back to watch the second attempt here for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup this weekend. 9:40 Central, that's 10:40 Eastern. Then at 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern, time attack, another group. Then GLTC Race 3 at 11:30 and GLTC Race 4 at 3:10 with a time attack session in between. So lots of time attack and GLTC tomorrow, Abe. We'll try again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun one tomorrow. Hopefully the weather clears up and things go everyone's way.
Absolutely, and I think we have to go down and find out what happened in the paddock. So I think we're probably about ready to step off for this afternoon. We want to thank our sponsors and partners for being with us. Of course, Falken Tires, Falken's RT660, peak performance inspired by enthusiasts. FCP Euro, if we wouldn't put it on our cars, we won't sell it to you. ST Suspension. Haltech, unlock the power. And by Stayville, feel the difference. And by Mike's Harder, dude, that's sweet. And for Eric Attil, extra sweet today. He'll pick up his 13th victory here in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup action. And with that, we'll cut to the end of the day here from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And up into the clouds we will go. We'll come back down tomorrow. And, Eric Attil might be on cloud 9, but he's going to have to defend it 3 more times this weekend. Thanks so much for watching GRIDLIFE Live. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Abe Schmucker. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:20.
See you tomorrow.